Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Monday.
The Blas are here because it's raining like crazy out there.
Even our clothes, look, we're all like gray, black, block colors.
Yeah.
I have a different take on it.
You're much brighter dressed on Fridays than Mondays.
It's not snowing.
That's true.
Let me give my. You want to hit this?
I don't even know what that is, bro.
Hit it up?
Inhaler?
Yeah, it's all it wasn't nothing. I wasn't vaping.
Last week, Titus comes in sick. Now G comes in sick.
Hey,
what do you have? What's the deal?
Asthma is not contagious.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Asthma not contagious. If I pass out, don't mean you gonna pass out. That was in my lungs.
Should we keep doing the show if you pass out, or should we wake you up?
We'll call authorities.
Yeah.
Get 911 over.
Well, you know my wife got a homing device on me.
That's true.
Heart rate. Like if my heart rate go below a certain
She'll
rate,
be here.
She'll just show up out there by that curtain.
That's true.
And if it goes above a certain rate, she'll show up.
She still showed up. Yeah.
I got a G. Bush real quick. This is totally off topic. You just hit a memory. When I was in Texas, we had breaking news that day, and our director had a stroke at 5:59 right before, a seizure, not a stroke, sorry, a seizure. And she had seizures all the time, and she would just kind of snap out of it. I don't remember what she had, Mary Jeanette, but she was just going to seizures. So 1 minute before we go on air, she starts seizuring, and no one else in the booth. We didn't know how to do it. So Jay O'Brien, our anchor, ran back, said the show must go on, and steps over Mary Jeanette having a seizure in the control room, punches himself up on camera, goes back out, reads the breaking news, tosses to break, and then we came back and helped her out. But we had to get the breaking news on the air. So G, if you pass out, the show goes on.
Was Ohio Center for Broadcasting back in the day. We used to have a guy named Jim Glass. He was I think he was a producer for Big Chuck and Little John, right? Okay. And he used to tell us the 6 o'clock news starts at 5:45. What time do you need to be there? I'm like, he says 6. He was like, no, 5:45. He was saying the 6 o'clock news, it doesn't get canceled for anything. It will go on. They will find a replacement.
You're going to step over someone having a seizure. That's
do they have any rundown notes for you, Jay? If you were to get trampled by a stampede at a Shriner Circus, do they have somebody filling in for you?
They could grab anybody. They really could.
But you ad-lib a lot, don't you?
I ad-lib everything.
But most news people don't ad-lib,
They
right?
just let you freestyle it?
Freestyling, baby.
Yeah, that's what
that comes with 36 years in the chair.
This is so you're the Jay-Z of 6 o'clock news.
I prefer the Eminem.
Honestly, a nice compliment for Jay. And I don't watch the news that much, to be honest, but I could tell that you ad-lib versus most news people who it's obvious they're reading.
I don't want to sound like I'm reading to you. There's a reason we read children bedtime stories when we want them to fall asleep.
Right.
Because the boring cadence and rhythm of reading puts them to sleep.
Off the prompter.
So I don't want to do that.
Some of these things that these cheesy news reporters laugh about,
the canned laugh.
Stern last week, let me tell the story real quick.
Stern kills local
Stern
news.
last week was telling the story. Apparently, I didn't know this. There's some town in Michigan called Hell, Michigan.
Hell?
Hell,
Oh,
H-E-L-L.
I can believe that.
And
I think
it
the whole
was
state's
freezing
hell.
cold there, which, it's Michigan. I'm sure it's always freezing cold.
So it's cold
there.
as hell.
Yeah. So he played 5 different clips of different news reporters making a hell freezing over joke.
Oh, okay.
And then making fun of these people because it was so cheesy.
Yeah, that's
By the way, I do have a funny seizure story if I haven't told it.
Funny seizure
A funny
story.
seizure story.
Oh, they're funny.
That's kind of
seizure stories?
oxymoronic.
It happened to me, so I can say it's funny.
Okay, okay. And
All
you're
right.
okay. So.
All right.
I'm fine. I did have 3 seizures when I was younger, one at 13, one at 18, and one at 23.
Wow.
I was on medication until 3 years ago, and now I'm medication-free and hopefully seizure-free.
You don't
for the
need
rest
it
of my
anymore,
life.
I guess.
I don't.
Wow.
My doctor for years thought it was the type of epilepsy that I would grow out of. A lot of kids do. I was scared to go off the medication after I had my 23-year-old seizure, but some odd years later, I finally went off, and I feel great.
Right.
So that's good. But funny story, my last seizure, I was 23 years old. My buddy Howie, if we ever do
Shout out to Howie.
Shout out to Howie Lane.
Wherever you at.
My pal, he might be watching. So Howie and I were, those were during my degenerate days, my heavy degenerate days.
Yeah.
The heaviest.
Gambling.
We were gambling, drinking, doing other things we shouldn't have been doing.
Sure.
Drinking, smoking, straight West Coast.
No, I wasn't smoking. My friend smoked. He was a major pothead. Not me, though. I never smoked pot. So anyway, we were out playing poker with our buddies. And by the way, I was also in the best shape of my life. Like I was like 190 pounds. I was feeling good with the ladies. I was doing good. So this is crazy. This is a crazy story. We played poker. We left the poker table. Must have been midnight. We played it. It was a friend's house we would always go to. We're driving home. We see these two good-looking girls around our age at a bus stop, okay? And we picked them up from our car. How insane is that, by the way?
Wouldn't happen today.
Never happened today.
Yeah.
These girls were insane to get in the car with us.
You're right.
Luckily, we were nice guys. We didn't do anything untoward. Anyway, they came back to my friend's Howie's house. We hung with them. We were drinking. We were having a good time. Okay, my friend Howie ends up in the room with one of the girls. I'm in the living room with the other girl. Okay, everything's going well.
Oh, no.
Next thing I know, it's a few hours later, I'm on the ground, buck-ass naked.
Having a seizure.
Well, the seizure was already over.
Oh, my God.
So as my friend Howie tells the story, he's making out with the one girl in the bedroom. All of a sudden he hears, I don't remember any of this, he hears the girl I'm with screaming bloody murder, and he thinks, oh my God, what is going on? The two of them come running out.
And
I'm having a seizure. Mode. The two girls run out of the house.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again. I was fine.
That is a funny
And the only reason my friend Howie knew what to do is because he had a dog who had seizures.
Wow.
If you listen to Baby Bull out there, there's a lesson in everything your father says.
Baby Bull's not listening right now.
Yeah, he better not be.
He's on the Xbox.
Don't pick nobody up on the side of the road.
Sick?
Again.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Don't take them back to the spot. And if you do have any sort of epileptic fits, please call 911.
You know what's
Brandon's
crazy?
Stunned silence.
Now a lot of the cameras houses have cameras in them in case a burglar.
I wish I had that on video.
Could you imagine if that was on video?
I want to see what happened. I would love to know, like, the girl and
When
I.
did the seizure begin?
What's that?
Did you shake your clothes off?
No, you know what? I said I was buck-ass naked, but now that I think about it, I don't think I was actually
He
buck-ass
had a
naked.
T-shirt and socks on.
I still had some clothes on because we weren't. We hadn't gotten that far yet. We would, I think, had just started making out.
She probably thought, "Damn, this guy's really getting excited."
Bull was in there setting the mood with his T-shirt, no pants on, socks.
My high white. I probably was wearing the high white socks.
Bro, is this part of your game? Like, what are you doing right now?
Bull over there curled up in the corner, talking about, "Come get me."
Man.
Man.
He lost
Allegedly.
me. He lost me. We picked him
Hey,
up
how's the
at
diet
bus
going? First of all, did you weigh yourself today?
I weighed myself. The only reason normally I weighed a week.
Right.
I only did 4 days because my dietitian wanted to know where I was this morning because he feels like the first chunk of weight loss
It's quick.
is quick, and he just kind of wants. It was even quicker than I thought. In 4 days,
Yeah.
I lost 12 pounds.
Wow. That is incredible, Bull.
It's crazy. That's a long,
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, right, Mike? I was stunned when I was.
I was there. He
pounds.
was shocked. He looked at me back in the gym and goes,
Well, I think I've had like 4,000 calories.
Yeah, you're
since
about 1,000
Thursday.
a day, right?
That'll do it.
Roughly,
That'll do it.
maybe 3,800.
And that might have been your daily intake. So it's almost like you have a 3-day fast.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Now keep the momentum. Stay positive. You've
feel
got it
good.
this time. How's your hunger, your cravings?
I'm not even hungry right now.
So is that because you think the shot's working?
I think the shot's working. That's definitely part of it. Because yesterday for breakfast, I had lettuce, cucumber, and a can of sardines and water. Mixed it up, okay?
That sounds like a prison meal.
Sounds awful.
Yeah.
And 3/4 of the way, I said to my wife, man, I'm kind of full. I can't finish this. Sardines, lettuce, and cucumber.
That's the
Normally, I
whole
would have been like ready to eat my hand. I would have been so hungry.
So
I
whatever
don't know.
chemical that the body releases when you're full to tell yourself that food's disgusting, you know how it is. After a big meal, if you think about eating that meal again, you can almost vomit. Whatever chemical that is that the body naturally produces to tell you, oh, cowboy, you've had enough.
Yeah.
That must be what they're doing with these shots, and it's just incredible. That
I
it's
know
working.
it is. I mean, so again, it's only a few days.
Right.
Fingers crossed it stays. But so far, like this morning, I had lettuce with a little bit of cucumber, no cucumber this morning, a little bit of carrots, very little, and some radishes in there.
You'll likely lose 20 pounds.
And then I had some turkey tenderloin, like 4 ounces of turkey tenderloin with it. And
you're feeling
and I feel
full.
fine.
Good. Yeah. Congratulations. Bulls bet?
We got Bulls bet of the day. Hey, Ohio.
Bad. I've dropped 2 in a row. I'm down to 5-4. Not good.
But it's a hot week. He's lost weight. We're going to start winning you guys money, too.
Yes.
Because Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook is the place to be for every single game. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. You can get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball, hockey, baseball, and more. And you can win big. Check out BetRivers.com or download the BetRivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
And I'm excited to finally officially announce the official return of my podcast, The Bullpen with Adam the Bull, 1 week from today as part of the Bet Rivers Podcast Network. So,
awesome. So
1 week from today back on.
That is coming back. Very good.
Yes. All right, this bet I love. Now, we're not going to know if I won it for a while, but here we go. Today's bet, this is a lock unless he gets hurt, but something I can't control. I know you'll love this one, Jay. Jose Ramirez over 29.5 home runs. Last week we talked about a higher number than that, didn't we?
Yeah, more than he hit last year, which was 30.
Right. He hit 29 last
29?
year.
He hit 29 last year.
Take the over.
So here's the thing. If you look at Jose Ramirez the last 5 years, he's had last year he had 29, but he played the second half of the season injured. 2 of those other years he hit more than 30. The only other 2 years he hit less than 29 was the 2020 season, which was a 60-game season, where he was way on pace for well over 30 home runs. The only other season he didn't hit 30 was the 1 year. Remember, he missed those 5 weeks late in the season. He had that one injury.
Yes.
And that year he had like 24. So he was again. So in the last 5 years, if it were not for injury and a lockout, he would have had 30 every year. By the way, I'll throw in a little bonus. I think Jose Ramirez is going to go 30-30 this year.
I do too. I think he's going to really take advantage of the larger bases.
Larger bases. I was going to save this for later, but let me mention it real quick. I was thinking about this over the weekend with this pitch clock. We learned the rules. We'll get into that later. But here's one big advantage with the pitch clock for the runners is there's only a certain amount of times you could stop the clock by throwing the first base.
Right.
Twice in a bet.
What's that?
Per
Twice in a
at-bat.
bet.
Right. So a good base runner, if they throw it over twice,
you're going on the third one.
You're going when there's, especially if the clock is running down.
Because you know he can't throw over.
He can't throw.
That's the problem that I have with the rule.
Right.
They pitch out.
You could pitch out. You're wasting a pitch.
We rarely see pitch outs these days.
Well, you'll see a lot more now.
You'll see more. But with the smaller bases, the pitch clock, and the shift is a huge advantage for Jose. Because how many times has he lined out to the second baseman playing short right field?
Many. One of the things that we'll see strategically from the pitchers is they won't throw over on that second time.
Well, that's probably true.
They won't.
Yes.
So now it's kind of a cat and mouse game,
right.
Whether or not the runner thinks he's going to waste that last throw over per the at-bat. But these aren't small changes.
No.
I watched some baseball this weekend.
We're going to get to it.
This is
a
fundamental change in the game.
I like
so
it.
So far is working, and we'll talk, like you said,
much
much more about that. We're also going to talk top first basemen. We got to number 5 on Friday, and then we had to stop. We're going to talk about the Cavs. I think we saw their floor and their ceiling in 2 days.
Yes, we did.
And there's a wide gap between the two. Also, let's start with the Cleveland Browns, because I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I think maybe surprised, because you didn't think that the Browns would go after Bates. But according to an ESPN free agent predictor, they have as the Browns' biggest free agent move signing the Bengals free agent safety Jessie Bates. And I want to start with you because obviously you know this player better than anyone, being a Bengals fan. If that's the big move that they make in free agency, I think that's a miss.
Well, it's a miss only if they...
it doesn't address their biggest needs.
Right. Now, maybe I was going to say it's only a miss if... the only way it's not a miss is if they trade for a defensive tackle and a wide receiver. So maybe they go that way. If that's their biggest veteran pickup... Now, let me make this very clear. Jessie Bates is an excellent football player. He will make the Browns better. He's better than any safety the Browns have had in as long as I can remember. But I don't think that's an urgent need for them.
I wonder if Schwartz thinks it is. After looking at every single play,
it's a weird,
all 22s, which I'm sure he's done.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because, in a way, I was like, oh, if Jessie Bates is their biggest addition, that's not good. On the other hand, if Jessie Bates is on the Browns, I'm not going to say it's a bad move because he's a really good player, knows the division, knows one of your rivals, always healthy, young player in his prime. Like, there's a lot of good things about Jessie Bates, except I don't think it's a pressing need for the Browns compared to other things.
That's why I would be just a little disappointed.
Right.
Not in the addition of Bates, clearly an upgrade in the back of our defense, clearly.
Right.
But to your point, we've got two red flashing lights,
thing,
and they're not safety.
If they add a good defensive tackle, a good wide receiver, and Jessie Bates between free agency and trade,
home run,
all good.
Okay. Yeah.
But if Jessie Bates is the only big target they go after, not because he's not good enough, just because shouldn't be the priority, in my opinion.
Brad?
Well, listen, we have a lot of holes.
We do.
We got a lot of holes, right? So safety is one. I'm still more concerned about the D line, right? And then the receiver piece, right? Because you got Watson, you got to give Watson some tools to work with. So I'm hopeful that they're working on something with Watson, but the D line is a major concern to me, right? Because if I don't shore that up,
what difference does it make?
What difference does I got in the backfield 20 yards down the field?
G. Bush, I've always looked at the position safety. It's like the most aptly named position of all of football players because it is the safety net. It can hide a lot of the defense's deficiencies. And from that, I think that if you think back to all those busts that we had last year, ultimately a really good safety that saw it happening in real time can cover for that. Where are you on the addition of Jessie Bates, and does that placate what you're looking for?
No. Jessie Bates is a good football player. If the Browns was like, oh, we need like one piece away. We need, maybe you didn't have strong corners. Maybe you feel like he could be a security blanket in the back. But the reality of it is, listen, safeties ain't supposed to be doing all that much. Like, there's a reason why you don't have Hall of Fame safeties every week. Because safeties, usually the Hall of Fame ones, usually can do two things. They can cover, they freelance a lot, and they have range and can tackle. So when you look at safeties that are in the league now, they don't even ask them to do too much. Remember Greg Williams had Peppers playing in the parking lot?
Yeah.
15 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Now Bates does a lot for a safety. He is very involved. He's involved in the run game.
He's got good cover skills.
Good cover. I mean, he's again. I don't think any of us would have a problem in a vacuum of Jessie Bates being on the Browns.
Right.
No,
You'd all be happy to have him. But when we talk about there is a salary cap.
Right.
There's ways around it, but it's not like the Browns are where they've been for many years, way under it. So Jessie Bates is going to cost probably $15 million a year. I just don't see how they can spend that kind of money at that position.
There's going to be a casualty here.
If you're looking at Bates
for the Browns, somebody.
If you want to look at Bates, that's not the guy I want to defense.
What's Johnson make?
12.
Okay, so it's almost a wash.
It's a wash there.
But I don't think you can get out of all of his money.
No, you probably
you
can't.
save 9.3 if you cut John Johnson.
Well, I think the writing's on the wall for JJ.
And Bates is obviously an upgrade over Johnson.
Right, and if it costs you only $6 million, in reality, that's the difference.
Right.
But if they spend that money instead of spending it on D tackle or wide receiver, that's where we'll have the beat.
I agree.
I actually think there's a problem with that too. We miss a linebacker.
I forgot about that.
We didn't even talk about that.
We didn't talk about linebacker. Listen, Bobby Wagner is available. I'm taking Bobby Wagner 12 times over Jessie Bates.
He's up there, though, Bull.
He is 32.
Let me ask you this. Of all the positions on the defensive side, because that was your area of specialty, which one is it easiest to coach up? Which position group? Because
that's a good question.
I had someone tell me it's linebacker, and if that's true, then Schwartz could have the biggest impact on the pieces we already have. I think the pieces we have at linebacker are workable. I do. We've seen it in Taki. We definitely have seen it with JOK. We haven't seen it consistently, and oftentimes that's coaching. So if that is true, and I want your opinion, if the linebacking core is the easiest group to coach up, Schwartz could have the biggest impact there with the pieces we already have. No?
You could coach somebody up, but it all depends on awareness. For me, linebacker is a feel. Like it's linebacker instinct. It's like a point guard. You could coach a point guard up, right? But at the end of the day,
to a degree.
That's what I'm saying. And to a degree, because the point guard is the feel.
You gotta have the instinct.
And it's like, okay, what do I need to get us in? And so when you have that feel as a linebacker, and one thing that Quell Jackson talks about is when I watch some of these linebackers in Phillips, he says, "Yo, I don't know if they reading keys. What are they doing? They don't have the feel for the position." There's some plays where you see guys just completely, I'm like, what are you looking at? What are your landmarks? Where's your eyes at? For me, I like Bobby Wagner because, first of all, he can play.
That's a one-year contract, though.
Well, listen.
He had a good year still last year.
He was the best linebacker, according to Pro Football Focus, 90 grade on as far as the linebackers, the best in the league. Now, here's the thing. I would rather have him and Walker's on. If you get Walker back, that's only a one-year deal, too. Would you rather have Bobby Wagner coming off a great year last year, healthy, or would you want to have Walker, who's coming off an injury to his knee? Phillips is coming off an injury. JOK is coming off an injury. Taki is coming off an injury. And Walker. So you got to think about it. And they're going to be trying to install a brand new defense. So these guys ain't going to be playing in the OTAs. You off an injury. They're going to be doing walkthroughs and things like that. I like Wagner. Now, Jessie Bates, I take him too if it's part of another grand scheme. I need another grand scheme. And we haven't even talked about the defense tackles, the receivers. If they're going to make these, we'll probably talk about the coaching here in a second. But it looks like these guys are doing everything possible to make Deshaun Watson comfortable. Finish the job. Finish your breakfast, big homie. Go get them receivers. And then we could go ahead and start putting stuff in place.
All right. Well, we'll find out. I mean, one way or another, they've got to make some moves in free agency. I was hoping, like you, I was hoping that it would be a wide receiver or a defensive tackle. But there are other avenues of acquiring talent. You can do it in trade.
Sure.
And at this point, I almost think for D tackle, I'm fine with trade. I don't want to do it through the draft anymore because we've proven that we're getting goose eggs when we do it that way.
Plus, defensive tackles just take time to develop.
They do.
So a rookie's
so maybe some of these,
for the most part, and rookies just. So another rookie, I just see the odds of a defensive tackle, the Browns draft in the second round, even if he ends up being a good player, being an impactful player in year one as a second-round pick is almost nothing.
Yeah, and Schwartz can coach that group up too.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
On we know he can coach DTs.
Yeah, he's had great success with interior defensive linemen. So from that standpoint, he's got a great track record there. Now, he's had much better talent to work with.
Sure.
And Ndamukong Suh, he didn't need much coaching up. Nor did any of the other Pro Bowl talent that he has coached on the inside of the defensive line.
I will say, in the Browns' defense potentially of Jessie Bates being their biggest free agent signing, in terms of the defensive tackles, the only guys better talent-wise than Jessie Bates or of that caliber are not going to be free agents. Like we've talked about Deron Payne, they're going to franchise him. None of the wide receivers available in free agency at the moment are of the caliber of Jessie Bates talent. So now they may end up being by cuts or whatever, but right now, like Juju Smith-Schuster and what's his name?
DJ Shark.
What's the guy? The guy who's the Packers' leading receiver this year?
Valdez.
Not Geronimo Allison.
Valdez Scantling, I think.
Alan Lazard?
No.
Alan Lazard.
Lazard.
Like those are nice players, and I think Alan Lazard could be an interesting guy for the Browns.
Right.
No speed though.
What's that?
No speed. With
No,
Lazard.
I hear you, but whatever. Sometimes at some point, if you can't get a speed guy,
Hunter Renfrow played with Deshaun Watson
I like all that.
Clemson.
Give me that Hunter Renfrow and give me a McCall
But none
Hardman.
of those guys are frontline wide receivers at this point.
But Renfrow won a national championship with Deshaun Watson at Clemson, and there's great chemistry.
Come on back.
And when I watched him at Clemson, I thought he was going to be
Wes Welker.
the next Wes Welker.
Well, he had a good year 2 years ago.
He did. He had a great year 2 years ago.
And then this year he was
hurt.
But
Think of what was going on, though, in Vegas this year.
Yeah.
And nothing was normal.
Yeah. No.
Let's talk about the coaches, because I was somewhat surprised to see that instead of going out and hiring an additional quarterbacks coach, they just added that duty to offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt. Is that... it feels a bit unconventional to me.
They did that in 20 and 21. So this is the third. Alex Van Pelt was the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach in Stefanski's first 2 years.
He was.
So
they just had quarterback coach last year?
Just last year.
I didn't know that.
Petzing had been the tight end coach. They moved him to quarterback coach. They did add an offensive coach, a veteran
Bill
offensive.
Musgrave.
Bill Musgrave.
But what was the title? Is an analyst. Those are always interesting to me because it's typically when you want to bring a guy in and have his brain, but you don't want to rattle everybody on the staff and give him a whistle. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work.
My thought is, just speculation, that maybe Musgrave will have some of Alex Van Pelt's OC duties.
I don't know.
And that
We'll probably never know because they're not going to be transparent about that.
But Mary Kay did give us a little insight in the article. I'm not sure if you guys
as to how it's supposed to work in theory.
Theoretically, yes.
So we talked about the situation in Tennessee where Schwartz was brought in. It was the exact same situation. They had a young defensive coordinator who needed help. So what did they do? They brought in Schwartz as an advisor.
Right.
And though he wasn't on the field every day during practice, he was the eye in the sky that was helping formulate the defensive strategy. And I'm sure he was a threat there to the young DC.
Right.
And now that he's gone and here in Cleveland, that now the young DC can spread his wings and fly. I wonder if that's what's going on here with Musgrave in the offense.
It feels like Musgrave is going to help Stefanski more with the game plan.
Feels
that's just
like
my feeling. And Alex Van Pelt could focus on the quarterback.
What they're doing right now, see, this is brilliant.
Is that a gentleman's demotion?
No. This is a gentleman's succession plan. See, they good. What really got Hugh Jackson up out of here? Hugh Jackson was going along with the plan, and Todd Haley came in, right? Now the problem is, you know how it is. Think about it like this. Think about we rocking and rolling, right? We got our show panel. We got everybody at UCSS going. We got our regulars. And then the suit say, now we need somebody to come stir up something, bro. We got to bring somebody from outside, bring them on in. Now, we've been doing this show for 3 years.
Everybody knows what that means.
You know what, right.
Yeah.
So now he's sitting over there.
Yeah.
Bull and Jay ain't letting them talk none. They just like, no.
Steamroll.
McNuggets ain't putting no graphics up. He's like, hey, bring that back. He's like, no, I ain't bringing nothing back. You should have been watching. The point is, they surrounding they closing the circle. So if anything go wrong, we all in the room. You know what it is. Ain't gonna be no backstabbing. Ain't gonna be.
You're not wrong, G.
We circling. No new quarterback coaches. None of that. We gonna get somebody I trust from outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
He gonna be a person that's my eyes and ears in the streets.
Okay.
So he can come back and give me a little raven.
Right.
Send me an owl. And with the note, he said, yeah, I got eyes and ears everywhere. This is what the people saying. This is how they run it on different teams. Musgrave done been in like 10 different teams. He could go and figure it out. And now, if they start off slow, guess what? It's only us in this room.
Yep.
It's only us.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And you've seen it in pro sports.
You're right.
We've seen it in this business. And it just seems a little odd. Whenever they use that term, consultant, advisor.
Raise your eyebrows.
Why don't they just call it coach in waiting?
But the difference is, you're saying Stefanski's doing this.
He's bringing in Musgrave, someone he's worked with and familiar with.
He worked for Musgrave in Minnesota.
He did, and they've got a working relationship.
As opposed to when they brought Haley, and that was a Haslam thing.
There you go. Outside guy. See, he's the hand of the king. Right? You the hand. The hand will tell you that's your guy. Listen, bro, we can't do it like that, man. The people crazy out there, these fans, he'll tell you.
He'll
let you know.
Somebody to cover your back. Right.
Yeah.
Somebody I trust.
Haley and Hugh hated each other.
They did. And what Haslam created there was a real-life game of Survivor.
Right.
Yeah.
He put these three alphas in the room because, remember, Greg Williams was on that staff.
Right.
And for a while, what really turned me off on the whole organization is when we had Greg Williams and
Freddie.
No, who was the OC? You just mentioned him.
It's Todd Haley.
Haley.
Yeah.
You had Todd Haley and Greg Williams picking over the live carcass of Hugh Jackson while he's still there.
I know, yeah.
They were fighting to see, is it going to be, am I going to get the job or are you going to get the job?
Neither of them
there was a time where they were fighting in practice, the two of them.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Shouting, yelling audibly. And that's when we were on Hard Knocks. So the whole world got to see it.
Remember the coaches meeting where Hugh Jackson's like, I'm driving the bus? I mean, that was so awkward.
It was awkward.
Oh,
it was
my
awkward.
God.
Was that year they went to fight? They went to go fight in Indianapolis?
That was.
They're just like, we just gonna fight. I was like, how do you take your stuff just to go to a fight? It was predetermined.
That was it. That wasn't a joint workout.
No,
that was a boxing match.
Man.
Indy just didn't know about it when it started. All right, we're thrilled right now to bring in, really, when you think about it, one of the most successful Cleveland Browns in team history.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the idea of football? To score points, right?
Yeah.
Nobody did that more than Phil Dawson.
I did. Let me tell you this about Phil Dawson. So about 5-6 years ago on the radio, we for an hour took phone calls. If you had to buy one Browns jersey since '99, who would you get? And Phil Dawson was second behind only Joe Thomas.
because they knew he was going to be around.
Now that's a great
jersey,
thing because Phil was great, but also a little sad because
but they knew he was going to be here. Like he's too good and too valuable to move.
Fans love him.
I mean, the problem with the Browns is we all have this. We have 45 jerseys in our closet that we wore for 1 year,
right,
or 2 years.
No succession. He's just a bunch of one-offs. But I will say he's one of the most famous Browns
because he was great. And he was here a long time.
He was.
Yeah.
Now he's the head coach of it's a high school in Texas, right?
In Texas, correct. Austin Hyde Park.
Yeah, there he is. Phil, the great Phil Dawson. No U-turns. No U-turns here. How are you, Phil? Great to see you, man.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
We're good.
Fantastic.
Hey, one of the things that we've talked about for the last 4 months on the show is it's the sport is football. Whether anyone likes it or not, kicking decides a large percentage of the games. Why is it that every single team doesn't have, not a special teams coach, but a kicking specialist to help these guys, pro golfers? Tiger Woods, for crying out loud, has a swing coach. Why isn't it, with so much riding on the results, every team doesn't have a kicking specialist on staff?
Man, that's a great question. In my humble opinion, I think there's probably about 3 humans on planet Earth that I would trust to send my kicker to learn. So there may just not be enough guys around that understand what is required to kick a ball. And, one size does not fit all. So even if there were enough guys to go around, you kind of got to figure out what is required to get the job done in the city where you kick. And so it really gets that specific. I mean, in golf, you hear about it a lot. Certain kinds of guys play better on certain kinds of grasses or in certain kinds of environments. So there's a lot of nuance and detail to it. And, to answer your question, I just don't think there's enough humans on planet Earth that even know enough to be a valuable asset to kickers.
Wow. Phil, you would be one of those few human beings on Earth that could help kickers. I know a couple of years ago you were on my radio show with me and Dustin. You were at Berea. We had you at training camp, and it was great talking to you. And you gave us such good insight into, what it takes to be a successful kicker in Cleveland, because it's very hard. It's one of the hardest places, if not the hardest place, to be a good kicker. Nobody else has really done it besides you at all, not with any consistency. We drafted a kid this past year. He was a high draft pick, and he struggled. He made some long kicks, but then he missed some makeable ones. Has he or the Browns reached out to you at all to have you help him? Or you not have the time, or how does that work?
No, I don't think no one's reached out. And to be honest, if I was a young guy, especially a draft pick, I didn't have that luxury. I was just fighting and scratching to keep a job week to week. And maybe there's something to that, to be honest. But if I was a young draft pick, I don't know if I'd want the old bald guy around telling me what to do or giving me tips. So let's just all take a breath and give it a little time to learn these things out. I tell people I was in year 14 and got a lot of credit for having the stadium figured out. And while that felt good, I was faking it till I make it, man. Each week was a new challenge. Every kick was a new kick. And just because you made one before didn't necessarily mean that you were more prepared for the next one. So it's an incredibly difficult job. If there were more than 32 world-class kickers on planet Earth, I don't think you'd see the turnover throughout the league year in, year out. So I think everybody just needs to relax and let Cade work and let him get used to things, let him get better, and we'll see where we end up.
It's a great point. We always had, in the past, there was more patience with kickers than there is now, right? Is that fair, Phil, or not?
Yeah, I got lucky. It was an expansion team when I got in there, and there was so much turmoil. I think probably I was able to hide in the weeds a little bit as they were focusing on all the other positions, and I was able to kind of grow into the job. And once things started to settle down a little bit, I was able to start getting better and get the job done. But I had a lot of good people around me, and I think that's an aspect of this that doesn't get talked about very much. Your battery, the snap and the hold, the protection, everything kind of has to work together. And let's be honest, sometimes you got to get lucky. And that ball just has to somehow find its way between those yellow posts, and before you know it, you got a little momentum at your back.
Hey Phil, let me ask you a question. What do you think Cade is? What is he thinking? What is he going through as he's trying to find his way as a young kicker in this league? What do you think he's thinking?
He's probably in survival mode. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I haven't talked to him personally about this. I know from my experience, it was simply, what am I going to do this week to get the job done so that I have a job the next week? And so you're really just trying to survive and figure things out as you go. We're all going to miss kicks. It happens to the best of them. You just hope you don't miss the wrong ones. And, I think he's shown he's got it in his DNA to rise to the occasion in the big moment. And that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to make every one, but the fact that you can make one shows that you can do it again. So he's going to just need to put his head down, go to work, ignore all the noise. I'm sure he's tired of hearing about me every time he misses a kick. People bring it up. And, I had to hear about Matt Stover and a guy that I went to his high school. So I didn't seem like I could ever outrun his shadow. But that's part of being in this league. When you have one of 32 jobs in the world, a lot of pressure goes with it. And that's why you just got to find your routine, be confident in what you're doing, and go to work. And they'll let you know when it's all over how well you did.
Phil, let's talk about you just said about your routine. What is your mental preparation? What does that look like when you're in the off season or during the week of how you mentally prepare? Is it meditation? Is there a list of things that you go through, a checklist? Or you just out there I'm going to go out there and kick it and see if it goes in?
I think I have a rather unique approach to that, or had. I'm an old has-been now, so I shouldn't talk in current tense. But I chose to approach the mental side by just conditioning the physical. I never found a technique that I could calm my mind or be totally relaxed or even totally confident. And I know that gets a lot of attention, and maybe for some guys that works. But for me, I was just going to grind physically. And my preparation, I know, albeit as a kicker, and that probably makes a lot of people chuckle how hard I worked physically, but that was how I handled the nerves. I had a routine, I had a preparation, almost like a pre-flight checklist I'd go through each week getting ready for a game. Even during the game, I had a sideline routine I would go through, and so I was constantly doing something physical, focusing on whatever it was.
Looks like he got
that.
There he is.
When the moment came up and I had to make a kick, all that physical preparation would kick in, that muscle memory would kick in, and regardless of what my mental state was, all that training would show up when I needed it to.
Phil, let's talk about one of your former teammates, Ray Bubba Ventrone, who I believe you played 6 years with, both here, and then you guys went together to San Francisco, I think the same year, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Did you guys go the same year?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so obviously he was a special teams ace. You're the kicker. I'm assuming you guys know each other well. And he did a great job as the special teams coach in Indianapolis. We're excited about him coming, but you know him better than we do. What can you tell us?
It's a slam dunk. It's a slam dunk. 10. Best hire I've seen in a long time. I mean, I'm a huge Bubba fan, both as a teammate and now seeing what he's done in the league as a coach. It doesn't surprise me a bit. And I think the aspect that he's going to bring to that room, other than his knowledge and experience, is he's a special teams guy. He came into the league undrafted. He had to fight and scratch just to find a spot. And he had to take advantage of those limited opportunities as a player to make a difference and keep a job. And I think most of the room that he's going to be talking to are guys that are just in that profile. And so there's going to be an ability to relate to the room. Guys are going to respect him both as a coach and as someone who's done it. He's not asking them to do anything that he hadn't personally done in his life. He's still young enough to relate to these guys, and let's be honest, the NFL is a young man's game now. So I think it is a 100% slam dunk, and I can't wait to see what he does there with the special teams.
Hey Phil, you
that's what we want to hear.
Yeah. Phil, you follow the Browns. What is your impression of the direction the Browns are going?
It's better for sure. That doesn't mean we're all not frustrated at times. But, you know, in my time there, we just never could quite to get our footing. We were constantly changing our front office structure or the scheme that we would run on defense. We'd go from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and obviously you got to build a roster that reflects that, and we're changing coaches all the time. I mean, it was just constantly changing. It feels like, just from an outsider's perspective, that we're at least starting to find our footing. Obviously there's growing pains, and we'd all like immediate results, but seems like the organ and hopefully, like, starting now, as a Browns fan now, hopefully that starts showing up and they can start building year in, year out and making progress.
Hey, Phil, top 3 most difficult stadiums to kick in, and if Cleveland's not in the top 3, where does it rank?
Well, Cleveland's 2 for sure. And if it wasn't for Chris Powell and his grounds crew, it'd probably be number 1. Chicago was my house of horrors, and I think a lot of kickers would back me up on that. You know, the thing Chicago has that Cleveland doesn't is a terrible field. And footing is such a huge issue to what we do. I mean, I tell people, imagine swinging or watch Tiger Woods when he's swinging a golf club and his plant foot or one of his feet slips in his swing. You know, generally the ball doesn't go where you want. Well, imagine kicking a ball, and as you come in with your kicking leg swinging through, all of a sudden your plant foot slides. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
So that's what makes Chicago so difficult. Cleveland's a close second. And, you know, the whole Great Lakes region is kind of the death of kickers. I mean, Green Bay's tough. Buffalo's tough. But you'd be surprised. You get in some of these southern cities. Tampa Bay, for example, is incredibly difficult. Their end zones, or, you know, where that pirate ship is, they're real low. The wind gets in there. They share the field with a college field, so it's generally torn up. Old Candlestick Park in San Francisco, you know, I thought when I got over there, man, I'm going to be in California, things are going to be so much easier, and I was mistaken on that. So you'd be surprised some other places, but generally, if there's wind and bad footing, it's going to make for a challenging day.
It's amazing, but not surprising how you remember all these years later. Now you still remember all these details. So I mean,
I try to forget, guys, but it just gets burned in there.
I'm curious your take, you know, on another one of your former teammates, Tim Couch. Tim joined us weekly during the football season. I'm curious from your perspective, if Tim had ended up in a better situation, if he had been on a veteran team with better talent around him on the offense, and obviously he hadn't had all the, you know, the injuries obviously killed his career. How good do you think he could have been in the NFL?
I think he could have been tremendous. I mean, and unfortunately, kind of what I talked about earlier, just the Browns never could quite seem to find their footing. We had a long to do pretty well in other places where the organization had an identity and there was more structure in place. So I think Tim was just wrong place, wrong time. I think Colt McCoy was another guy that kind of falls into that. And I could go on about guys who were more than capable to be quality starters in this league, but it was just the wrong time, wrong place. And when you get a window to be a starter in this league and it doesn't work out, you're generally cast more into the backup role from that moment on for the rest of your career.
Phil, what is it about, maybe I'm just making this up. I've been longtime friends with Jay Feely. I've golfed with him a lot. I've talked to him about this. Are you a big golfer?
Used to be.
Okay.
Used to be. The old body doesn't bend the way it used to, so I've kind of given it up.
I know what you're talking about. It seems like golfers, that so many kickers are also great golfers. And I'm wondering what the correlation is. Obviously, you're swinging something and you're hitting an object that's standing still. What is the correlation between those that can strike a golf ball well and kicking a football the way you want to?
Yeah, I think there's coordination. I mean, if kicking was always about the strongest guy, we'd have the nose guard kick. If it was all mental, we'd have Albert Einstein kick. Right. So there's a combination of the mental and the physical. And I think the approach to a single moment, in golf, those guys, you when you watch a tournament on a Sunday and it's coming down on the back nine, I mean, they take a couple minutes per shot. I mean, everything in their life is about that one swing that's in front of them. And, the life of a kicker, that's it. Wow. I mean, you do all this work all year long, and it comes down to 30, 35 times you trot out on the field for a season. So just being familiar with the significance of a moment and how your ultimate focus needs to be all about on that moment. And the really good kickers are the ones that can devote that, and then they clear it, they move on, and then they commit fully to the next one. And it's a pretty miserable existence, to be honest. I mean, it's you can go out and make a big kick in the first quarter, and the mistake a lot of young guys make is they think, wow, I'm having a good game here, and then they forget they have 3 or 4 more kicks the rest of the game. So it's a constant battle to just get ready for the next opportunity, and the golf demands that, kicking demands that, and I think that's why a lot of guys are at least halfway decent at getting out on the links and being able to put the ball around a little bit.
Phil, I'm curious your take on, at the end of last season, Brett Maher, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, the kicker on the Cowboys, right? This guy had a great season. He was one of the best kickers in football, top 5 probably last year. And then in the playoff game, he misses 4 extra points in a row. He does make the 5th, but then in the next playoff game, he misses the first one. I mean, I can't remember you ever having that kind of day. I can't imagine. But, what's that? This is not some rookie who's never done it before. This is he's not an old kicker, but he's good. He's proven. Give me your take me into his mind if you can, with what happened to him at the end of the year, and can he bounce back this season?
That's a great question, and the popular analysis was it went straight to the mental, and I'm not denying that didn't have a factor in it. But what have we already talked about in this little interview? We talked about there's not many people out there that can coach kicking, and even beyond that, it has to be specific to where you do this. Well, where did Maher have most of his success all season long? It was on a nice firm field, inside, and then all of a sudden you get in the playoff games. And what was one of the stadiums I've already said was tough? Tampa Bay. So all of a sudden you're out on the grass. It's late in the year. It's soft. It's a completely different rhythm and feel and timing and everything to what you're accustomed to. And maybe he built a technique that allowed him to kick really well on a fast, firm track. All of a sudden you're on a soft, sloppy track and your rhythm gets off. And now you don't get the result you want. Now the mind game starts in there. We've all done it on tee shot. We've duck hooked the first 3 holes. And so now we start trying to account for the duck hook, and then we slice one the other way, and now we don't even know what to do. The following week, they go to San Francisco late in the year. I spent 4 years there. They do a decent job on that field, but late in the year, it gets soft, it gets chewed up. So once again, kind of the same thing. So when you've built a technique that allows you to be excellent in one environment, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to handle all environments. And I'll be honest, late in my, I'd get going, and I halfway had Cleveland figured out, and then we'd go somewhere perfect. We'd go to a dome, and I struggled a little bit in Arizona, to be honest. Here I am on a perfect field with no wind, and all of a sudden I was starting to struggle because I spent so much of my career building a technique that could handle.
We keep icing the kicker.
That's great.
Physical breaks down, then the mental starts kicking in.
Let me ask you this. I imagine it's different between every kicker and every kick, but if you had to, as a baseline rule, what percentage of kicking is physical and what percentage of kicking is mental?
Oh, it's hard to separate it, but I will tell you, if I were to work with a young kicker, and I tell mine here at Hyde Park High School in Austin, where I'm coaching now, it's not about your best kick, it's about your worst kick. So let's build a technique that is repeatable and simple, and even on your worst kick, on your worst day, you have a chance of getting your job done. And when your worst kick still somehow makes its way through those posts, now you got a career.
Interesting. McNuggets, our producer, has a question for you. He was a wannabe kicker. He's very small, little guy, So really the only position he could play in football was kicker, but I'm sure he has some kind of question about that.
No, I actually played left tackle the 1 year of football I played. Got my ass kicked every single
You were
play.
never a left tackle, McNuggets.
No, I swear to God, it was terrible.
Bro.
I played 1 year of football. I hated it so much, I never played again. But, Phil, I actually have two questions for you. One's a coaching question. One's about your time with the Browns. DeQuell Jackson comes on the show every week. He's become a good friend of the program. And I know you played with DeQuell for quite a while. What's the relationship between a kicker and the other guys in the locker room? Because I know special teams is kind of its own unit. But was there assimilation? And if you have a DeQuell story, we'd love to bust his balls for it next time he comes on.
Yeah, I would say for most kickers, and it's their own fault, they kind of isolate themselves and they kind of do their own thing. And as a result, there's not much of a bond with the rest of their teammates. Doesn't make them bad guys, but that's just kind of the typical deal. And I think that's why you see, especially like take, for example, in that Dallas game where Mara ran into some issues in the playoffs, you saw the sideline not handling it real well. Like the guys don't mind that you do that until you don't play well. I chose both because I thought it was a smart choice and also it was just the way I wanted to go. I wanted to be one of the guys. And so every opportunity I had to integrate with the rest of the team, be in the weight room with them, be out on the field running sprints with them, just be engaged as much as humanly possible. You know, one of the great joys of my career looking back was the relationships I had with guys like DeQuell and others, and being able to be a team captain. Now, when I was kicking them sideways, as painful as that was, when I came to the sideline, I had a bunch of dudes who knew it was important to me, that I did everything I could to be ready to do my job, and at least the sideline was a safe place for me to go, as opposed to just hanging out playing Madden all day and never working out and kind of doing my own thing. Now you come to the sideline after hitting one sideways, and that's probably the last place on earth you want to go.
And Phil, one more quick one. I spent 4 years in Texas covering high school football down there before coming up here. I know you're coaching down in Austin now. What's more nerve-wracking, lining up for a game-winning kick or getting ready to prepare for Fort Bend Christian Academy in the playoffs?
Woo, man, it's similar, but at least a kick is only a moment in time. Now as a coach, I'm nervous all the time. I mean, there's not a night that goes by I'm just wondering what happened today that's going to find its way to my desk tomorrow. So it's a full-time job being a coach. It's awesome. It's a great opportunity. I love every minute of it. But man, they both can get at you pretty good.
How realistic is Friday Night Lights there, Phil? Is it close?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Yeah. It just is what it is. When you grow up in Texas, most kids, when they lay in bed as an early young child, they just dream about Friday nights. And to be honest, most dads dream about that for their boys as well. And so I'm trying to do as much as I can to give our community here at Hyde Park a Friday night experience they can look forward to. And we were able to turn things around in year one and had a great season, but we still got a long way to go. And hey, that's the life, right? Like just like I said, you make a kick, guess what? You got another one coming. So we're taking that mentality as a program, and we're going to put our head down and go to work, and they'll let us know how well we did.
Man, you sound just like a high school coach.
Yeah, man.
Phil, two questions, and it might be the same answer. Greatest kicker ever, and you've got one kick, the biggest kick in the world to win a Super Bowl. Who do you want? Is that the same guy? And who is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Adam Vinatieri would definitely be the answer to the second question. I think he proved the bigger the moment. I mean, there was no doubt he was going to make it. But your first question, Adam was not the greatest kicker ever, and I know I'm going to get run out of town for to make those big kicks. He was just going to find a way to get the job done. And, I got to spend a year with him when I was on the practice squad in New England. And I think of all the things I learned from him, that was the thing that stuck with me the most and proved most beneficial for me, playing somewhere where you literally had to figure out a way to make the next kick. So that's an aspect of being a kicker I think doesn't get looked into enough or valued enough is the dude a competitor. I mean, go back and watch him in Little League Baseball. Was he the guy that got the big hit when his team needed it? Or, in basketball, was he taking the charge in the lane when it had been easier to just step out of the way and give up 2 points? You're out on an island. You got the whole world looking at you. You got you're playing in an environment where most people just expect you to make it and don't appreciate how difficult it is. You better have some mental toughness and some competitiveness to you to get the job done. So Adam definitely game on the line. I want him. And then best kicker ever. I mean, I'll just go with the numbers. Justin Tucker, he's rewriting the record books, continues to just pour those kicks in, and we'll see if he can keep it up for another decade, but he's well on his way to being by far the best kicker ever.
Phil, if every kicker in the NFL today had to punt and every punter had to be a kicker, which group on average would have more success?
Kickers. For sure.
I guess I should have figured that one. Yeah.
Hey, there's a little something to it. I mean, I think most kickers, the biggest struggle most kickers would have, in all honesty, is just catching the snap and all the ball handling that takes place to punt the ball. I mean, that's an aspect of punting that doesn't get valued enough. I would argue that your hands are the most valuable asset for any punter. But most punters are longer lever type guys. They're the 4-iron in your golf bag, and that's what allows them to do that. But longer lever guys struggle with accuracy kicking the ball. That's why most really accurate kickers are like 5'10" and a half to 6 foot. There's obviously exceptions to that, but I think punting a ball here and there, a short guy like me could probably get the job done. We're going to hit a lot of bad ones for sure, but we could probably do that. A big, tall guy is going to be able to boom punts, but when you ask him to hit a field goal between 2 yellow posts, he's going to struggle. He may be able to kick it a long way, and that's why a lot of punters are kickoff guys, but the accuracy piece would prove problematic. So as biased as I am towards kickers, I do think kickers could probably punt a little better than punters could kick.
I agree with that.
Makes sense.
Phil, one of the most underrated things of the kicking game is like the snap and the hold. Like when I was coming up, going to camps, it was the first place where coaches used to say, "Hey, if you can snap, we'll give you a full scholarship." And I said, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, if you can snap it, you got to be fast now." And then it was just like, they started giving guys full rides, and then you couldn't even hit the snapper. So we would have the long snapper. He was on our team full. Shout out to Brandon Swagger, by the way. I don't know where you're at, but he was one of the first dudes that I was like, "Man, so you don't do nothing?" He was like, "Yeah, you can't hit me anymore." So between that and the hold, now the hold is key because sometimes punters do it and sometimes the backup quarterback does it. I mean, when I was growing up, do the backup quarterbacks really is that innate, or are they practicing that all the time with you guys?
Now it's the punters.
Well,
now it's the punters.
That's a great question, because when I came in the league, if you made 75% of your kicks, you were considered doing a good job. And that was right at the end of backup offensive linemen being the snappers. And then all of a sudden, it became 85%. And I attribute that growth, or that 10% growth in success rate, to NFL teams finally recognizing how important it was to have a quality snapper. And that's when you start seeing roster spots going to just snappers. And as snappers have gotten better, kicking percentages continue to go up through the roof. So I think it's undeniable to say that the battery doesn't matter. And in my opinion, you got to have 2 out of 3 that are really good at what they do. If you have a really good snapper and holder, you can have an average kicker. But whatever combination it winds up being, 2 of those guys have to be really good. And as you got away from the backup quarterback holding and now went to the punter, that only made it better. And people are like, well, what's the big deal there? Well, what did I say the most valuable skill set for a punter is? It's his hands. So obviously you got a guy that he's used to catching a snap. He can catch it, put it down, and it allows you practice time. Think about when the backup quarterback's over there doing offense all day, what's the kicker doing? I mean, he doesn't have anyone to kick with. So now all of a sudden you got the punter holding. Now you open up all that time during practice for the snapper, the holder, and the kicker to get that rhythm together.
That's fascinating. Last question, Phil. If we took you out to a football field right now and we put you at the 40-yard line, 10 kicks, how many do you make, and what's your range right now?
He just leave you hanging like that.
I tell people.
Wait, Phil, we lost you for a second because your signal froze, so I didn't get your answer.
No, I said, are those kicks in Cleveland?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I could probably still make most of them.
Wow.
But the thing is, I might not be able to walk for about 3 days after the fact. So, I do have a goal. I just turned 48, and I've always wanted to say I can still make a 50-yarder when I'm 50.
Wow.
So I'm actually going to start stretching again. I'm going to start messing around. I'm thinking about making it a big fundraiser deal. So I'll have to let you guys know I'm canceling the whole event.
100%.
If I get going and it's bad, but if there's any way I can still do it, I'm going to try to get out there in a year and a half or so and see what happens.
We'll call it 50 at 50, and we will be the primary media sponsor. We'll drum up a ton of dough for you.
Let's do play-by-play for it.
Oh, we got it. It's got to be made for TV, right?
Well, maybe I should come up there and do it.
Yes.
Listen,
We'd love to have you, Phil.
You tell us
I would
when.
bet all on Phil.
You tell us when. We'll do a 50 at 50. And we will telecast it live, and we will help you raise a ton of money for whatever charity you want.
Yeah.
Well, we might even get DraftKings going on, and I'm sure there'll be some people wagering what's going to happen first.
Phil, you're a genius. You're a genius.
You know what it is.
And listen, I don't know who the hell it was that did that awful promotion at the Super Bowl. FanDuel with the Gronkowski. It looked like it was CGI.
That was good.
And then they said the kick was no good, but it looked like
I think he made it.
I think he made it too. I don't know what the hell that was, but we'll get it right. 50 at 50.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Phil, that's awesome, man.
Thanks, Phil.
Great to catch up with you.
Thanks, guys.
We will talk with you soon, I promise you.
Go Brownies.
Absolutely. The great Phil Dawson. I wouldn't bet against him either.
I learned more about kicking in the last half hour than I ever had I think in my entire life.
I did too. And you know what's interesting is he said that back in the day when he came in the league, 75% was good. Where was Cade York? 75%. There was a lot of talk this year about the holder for the Browns.
Right.
And at how the kickers at the different stops that he's been and held for had struggles.
Although Jay Feely said the holder was not to blame.
Jay Feely told me some things in our little text chat that
that's not privy. To the
he's not going to. It's a club, okay?
Well, we'll see.
I get that, and I get that.
But Phil did make a good point. You got to be patient with the kickers. You got to give them a little time, which the Browns are certainly.
Yeah.
He's got to show improvement in year 2, no doubt.
But he gave us insight, like you said.
Yeah.
The holder,
2 out of 3.
the hands.
Yeah.
You got to have 2 out of 3, and
I never thought about the fact that the punter could spend way more time with the kicker practicing than the backup quarterback had.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me.
Sure.
Even though he says it, of course that's obvious. But yeah, when we were kids, it was always the backup kicker, quarterback.
And that's why you have a designated snapper.
Right.
Like that's all Charlie does for the Browns. If he was busy running reps and practice, that's taking away time from that unit.
Well,
of
think
special
about
teams.
it. Think about this too, because he said it used to be a backup offensive lineman, right?
Right.
Think about that. I don't know. You guys probably don't remember this, but in the first game this season between the Bengals and the Steelers, the Bengals.
I do remember it.
The Bengals' long snapper got hurt.
Yeah.
And then they kicked an extra point, which Bengals attempted an extra point. That was the first kick without the long snapper. An extra point which would have won the game for the Bengals.
Then they missed a couple of kicks in overtime.
Right.
Would have won.
Eventually they stopped kicking because the long snapper was hurt. So you think, well, any lineman should be able to go in and do it. But no.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that the improved field goal percentage, as he points out, is probably not even that much about the kickers. It's more about the long snapper and the holder.
Which is fascinating.
What I found interesting was when you asked about giving advice to Cade York, he doesn't need me in his ear. He needs to find out and build himself on his own.
Yes.
That's right.
He's right. But the very first question we asked was, why don't all teams have specialists coaching these guys I was fascinated to hear him say there's probably only 3 guys in the world that are qualified to be able to do that with any kicker. And it's the same thing with swing coach, by the way.
Yeah.
When Tiger Woods was with Butch Harmon, I don't want to get too down this rabbit hole, but when he was with Butch Harmon, he had by far the most success he's ever had. Then he fired Butch. And what happened? Now, he's been great since, but he's never been the consistently great golfer he was. And Butch takes great pride in sitting back and saying, I am the magic bullet. And he is with the golf swing, widely regarded as the guy.
It's almost like, financial advisors. Everybody got a guy, right? But
you have the right guy.
Yeah, just because he made you some money in the second quarter does not mean you're gonna break even for the year. Everybody got a guy. And then some people think they get to do it themselves.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah,
there's a lot to it, man. It's so nuanced.
That was really
one of the more enlightening interviews.
And now we know why they don't hire kicking coaches. And he made the great point of saying, I'm sure Kate York's sick of hearing about me.
Yeah, and you know what? It's great awareness.
He would be great on TV in the Jay Feely role.
Unbelievable.
He'd be phenomenal.
Unbelievable. Now, I think the one reason he is a homebody, he wants to stay in Texas.
Yeah.
He probably could find something to do with the NFL.
100%.
He's clearly articulate. He knows the game.
He loves coaching. Either you a college coach or you're a high school. Some people love that. You can tell he loves high school. He basically wants to say,
his blood.
He said, I ain't got no time.
They were really good this year.
Right. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah. What was their record?
They were 8-3. They lost in the first round of the playoffs. They got boat raced
But they
by
were
a team
bad the year before? He
took over a pretty good team, but he kept the standard up. They went 8-3. He was nominated for the private school coach of the year in Texas this year.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Alongside Jason Witten, by the way, also nominated for that. Jason Witten's coaching at a school in Dallas.
Imagine the advantage they'd have when it comes to recruiting and bringing players into that program.
One last thing that he mentioned that we didn't hit on here real quick. Could he like Ray Ventrone anymore?
No, I know. He said
he was so excited
10 out
about
of
that.
10.
Yeah.
And we've all,
we were all excited about it. Phil Dawson tells you it's great.
It's great.
You feel good about it.
And we got to stay on the 50 at 50. I know it's 2 years away.
That would be amazing.
That could be a huge fundraiser.
We've already sent him an email about it.
That's great.
Fans
That's fantastic.
love Phil Dawson.
They do love Phil Dawson.
Like no kicker has ever been loved, maybe.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
just crazy. He hit field goals that was impossible. Like that Buffalo game where it was snowing outside.
Yeah. I think Dustin played in that game.
Yeah, he did.
How about he said the worst? Cleveland is the second worst place.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Kick from.
Do you know what helped Phil Dawson with that 50 for 50?
Built Bars.
Built Bars. Got to get Phil Dawson on that Built Bar diet. The man still works out. He's still in the weight room with his team, but his entire team and Phil could get that extra boost of 15 grams of protein. If they get Built Bars using promo code LOCKDOWN15 at Built.com, they can be the swollest private school in all of Texas. And also, on Fridays, we do viewer questions on our overtime. We didn't get to them all last week. We're going to finish those viewer questions today on our overtime segment. If you are not already a member of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, what are you waiting for? For $1.99 a month, you get loyalty badges, custom emojis, member-only community posts for $4.99 a month. That's less than $5 a month, less than $60 for an entire year. You get all those same starter tier perks, plus the overtime videos, member shout-outs, discount codes from merch, and more. Jason Lloyd texts during some of these Cavs games, back and forth with the viewers. He's doing Monday, March 6th against the Celtics. We've already seen some classic Celtic Cavs games. Hopefully, round 4 will be just as entertaining, and Jason will be texting with our coaches tier members for that as well. So if you haven't already, sign up.
Very good. Change gears to Cavs.
Speaking of the Cavs.
Man, oh man. So they get housed by Atlanta, a team that they should have no problem. I don't care where the game is played. They should win that. They gave 136 points. So apparently defense was optional for the Cavaliers that night. That was their third straight loss, which was troubling because it carried over through the All-Star break. They won the game before, or lost the game before the All-Star break. Yeah. Then the next two. Then yesterday they come out, and I know Toronto was playing on very short rest.
Yeah. And Toronto's not that good.
Well, Toronto was 3-0 against the Cavs, though. For not being a very good team,
going into yesterday.
They were hot coming in, and they had the Cavs number, and the Cavs made that one look pretty easy. So at the top of the show, I said this. I think in the span of 48 hours, we saw the ceiling, and we saw the floor. How good this team can be, and how bad this team can be. Brad, who are they?
Well, first of all, I don't kind of look at it like that. The one thing that I don't think people take into account is it's typically tough the first few games after the All-Star game, right? Especially if you've had.
Well, then it is for everybody.
Well, if you follow the Clippers struggling, there are a number of teams out here that come back from the All-Star break and not really get.
But half of them have to win and half of them have to lose.
But I'm just telling you what the deal is, right? The deal is it used to be the All-Star game used to be a game. So your best players went down there and played in a game, right? This has turned to a side freak show.
It is.
And so what has happened now is Donovan Mitchell, I think, only responded back yesterday after playing the All-Star game where he had to perform, trying to be the MVP in Utah and all the little side things that go on, and where you saw a guy like Jokic who did nothing. He went down there, played a few minutes, and sat down.
Right.
And he came back and he was pretty much on point, right? So I said, let me get a few games under my belt after this All-Star break because I just know how it works. And then last night I was going to start to be concerned if they didn't respond against Toronto. And then they responded against Toronto. But to your point, I just say this. I think the focus now is that your 8-9-man rotation has to be solidified here. And you're going with what you got. It doesn't seem like any more is coming in here. I'm not sure that Danny Green is factoring in here. I mean, they didn't put him into the last few minutes of the game yesterday. So it looks like we have what we have, and the guys that you're depending on are going to have to get you over the hump.
Man, look, Jay, man, it's time you start looking at JB. That game against the Hawks, you came back to beat Toronto. It's time to start looking at him because, we look at all the other teams in town, and it's weird because the Cavs have really good young talent. They got really nice guys, and we like their core. But some of the stuff that he says, sometimes it baffles me. When you come out and you get 81 hung on you against the Hawks, 81 points in that half, right? My thing is that's beyond being tired or because of the All-Star break, or that's beyond, we didn't execute. That didn't come to play.
Yeah.
81? And so I'm looking at JB and I'm looking at it saying, listen, when you consistently go to the press conferences and the first thing you say is we're young, that's a built-in excuse. At some point in time, you're not young no more. You here. He should be coming into our locker room and say, guys, remember last year? Let's go watch last year's film when we was doing the same stuff. It's a different group of people, but the message is still it resounds with everyone. We were head and shoulders playing better in the first half. All-Star break came, and then we got injuries, we got hurt, and you know where we ended up at. We're not doing that this year. We didn't come out ready to play against Philadelphia. You see what happened. I told you after that game. Denver, we fought hard, but we still didn't execute. But this game, you got 81? Hold
on. You get. Gee, you my dude, but you getting sideways on this thing. So when you talk about Philly,
right?
That's one of the top teams in the league here.
But they didn't come to play though.
But the problem here, that's not the problem. You're facing tough competition. This is a young team, right? And there's no sugar. You can't compare last year to this year. You're in the moment that you are in, right? And you have injected a new factor into this game, into the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell is working his way. I told you last week, he's the closer. At times they get confused on who the closer is, right? Yesterday he was a closer.
So let me ask you this question: the game before, when you get a guy like Mobley with 31, he gets no touches in the fourth. So I'm looking at it like JB. Call him over here and say, look, dog,
get him involved.
Hey, get him involved. Call a play for him. Run something for him. And if they're not getting him the ball, guys, listen, we got some down low.
Is that JB or is that on Donovan and Darius?
Well, here, it's on Mobley. You want the ball? I didn't see him begging for the ball down here. I didn't see him standing in the three-point lane like, you throw me this ball.
But if the coach decides he's going to get a player involved.
It's here. That's fine. At some point, it's on the player, too, right? Because if you have the ball and you have the ball and you not give me the ball, you know what I'm going to do, Jay?
I know. You're going to
I'm going to stand right in the 3-second key. Just right here.
Yep.
Whoop, 3 seconds. Come back down. Whoop, 3 seconds. Throw the ball into me again.
That's what the forwards and centers on my basketball team.
That's what I'm saying.
And it led to 1 and 8.
My point is this. He's coming. He's not there yet because he has yet to learn how to demand the ball.
Right. That's the thing that comes along as you get older. But when you're younger, JB is saying, all right, well, listen, like you got to think about it. Sometimes Kobe wasn't going to throw the ball to Shaq. sometimes he just wasn't going to do it. This is what I'm feeling like I'm doing right now. Darius Garland, I heard Greg Short say this. I talked to Greg. He said, look, Darius got 33 points. He had 2 assists. He wants to prove to people that he should have been an all-star this year. He feels like he got a chip on his shoulder because he looked at their numbers and how comparable it was, and he wants to prove that. Now, I said, there ain't no problem with that. But for me, I feel like Darius Garland is much better suited at 22 and about 8, 9, 10 assists.
Well, absolutely.
Run those numbers back you just put up. That's when he's at his best.
That's it, right there.
Yes, absolutely.
Right there.
And he's getting confused like he needs to be this 30
That's when he's at his best for this team.
Yes,
right, but that's what
correct.
they need. They need everybody to be at their best with this team. I don't know. You said that Donovan Mitchell was the closer in the. It's easy to close a game when you're up by 20.
No.
I want to see him, Brad. I want to see him close a game against a top-tier playoff team that's a 1 and 2 point game the last 2 minutes.
So let's talk about
that's what I want. That doesn't count.
Here, let's not use the word close. Let's talk about how you close. This is how you close, right? You're seeking out the ball. Your teammates are seeking you out, right?
Yeah.
You're the one.
Sure.
Right? I'm not sure that has always been the case down every game here, that down the stretch we're looking for the one.
No, it probably hasn't.
No. And so when you have
that's a
that,
problem.
there's some what do you call it? We got to tinker with this
Jockeying.
thing. There's some jockeying here for the position. Right. Now it requires if Bull is the closer, and I feel like I'm the closer, unless I acquiesce to Bull, so that the rest of us know that where we're going here.
You got a tug of war.
You got something going on here, and it's not intentional.
No.
It just happens, right?
They're not bad guys or nothing.
Let me ask you this. We have about 6 weeks and change till the end of the season. At this point in the year, we know the Cavs are probably going to be the 4 seed, right? I mean, it's possible they could move up. It's possible they could drop.
Right.
But most likely they're going to be the 4
That's what you're targeting.
Is everything you're doing now getting ready for the playoffs? Is there a sense of that? And so maybe there's going to be some nights in the regular season, especially in this NBA, where the players don't play every day like they did when you played, that it doesn't, maybe even it doesn't matter if we win tonight. I don't know. Is there some of that?
Well, this is you're into the 20 range games left, right?
I think about 17, 18, right?
So this is where you are honing in on what we're about to do here. Rotations, right? We got time to be tinkering with rotations. I was, like I said, when I saw Danny get in the last 2 minutes, I said, I don't know if they're going to have any room for Danny here. Right?
Jetty was a DNP last week.
Because you have to start solidifying where we're going so people know what their roles are here, right? It cannot be game by game. The second thing is here, some of the onus is on the play. Some of the onus is obviously on the coaches. JB got to say, this is what we're doing, right? And ferret out any distraction. The third thing is this. The onus is on the players to accept the roles and responsibilities to make the team move forward. Right? Irrespective of how much gas you think you got in the tank here, right? And so when I see 18, 11, and 3, that means you scored 18 points, you've given up 11 assists, which could be a minimum 22 points. A minimum
more, likely more.
Right. So a minimum of 22 points. So you put 40 on the board.
And that's your job.
And that's the job.
Yep.
That's the job of the day, right?
And what bothered me is, and I don't know how true this is, if it was you just kind of trying to jump in his mind, but if he is really trying to prove to people he should have been an all-star, that's not what you should be doing right now.
We're too late in the season for that.
No, you know what? You can prove everybody wrong by taking this team on a playoff run.
Right.
And as for JB, it's going to come down to the playoffs. If
I
the
agree.
Cavs get swept in the first round or losing 5 games, I think he's gone.
I do too.
Now, maybe it's different because Dan Gilbert is not running the show day to day like he used to.
Right.
But, like, you can't, like, last year was it was an exciting season, but it ended in major disappointment that they didn't even really make the playoffs. They just made the play-in. If they this year don't even, like, if they lost a hard-battled 7-game series, maybe I could live with that. But if they go out with a whimper in the playoffs in the first round,
it's not going to be a good look.
You have to consider changing the game.
I just don't think you could continue using the trope of you're young.
Yeah, I get you. It gets
Yeah.
it gets mundane. Mike, I just sent you a clip. I want you to bring this clip up on the screen for people.
While you're doing that, by the way, off topic, but don't look now. The Lakers are 3.5 games from the 4 spot.
I saw it. But a 27-point close yesterday, I was like,
yeah.
whoa.
That was the biggest comeback of the year, right?
I told you.
LeBron's in that mode. He's back.
The moves they made for D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
Beasley.
Just getting Russell Westbrook out of town.
Under the radar, what's his name? The big kid they got from Minnesota is really good. I like him.
Vanderbilt played awesome
Vanderbilt,
yesterday.
right.
Well,
he's a good player.
What's interesting about the Lakers now is, I hate to say that he wasn't engaged, but when LeBron said at the All-Star break that these last 23 games are the most important regular season games I've ever played, it told me one thing. Russell's out of town. I'm ready to ball now. Let's go.
Yeah, you don't want to go out with
I would not want to face the Lakers in the West.
And there's no standout team in the West.
No. I mean, Denver, I think, is starting to separate itself more and more.
But are they? They always flame out in the playoffs, though.
Well, what I'm saying in the regular season right now, they're separating themselves from everyone else. Now, if history holds, they won't have playoff success. But I would not want to see LeBron and the Lakers in the West Conference playoffs.
Phoenix is dangerous, but will they stay healthy?
I know that's their big issue.
On every level, you talk about coaching and focus, players focus, coaches focus, and understanding the mission. Right?
Yeah.
That's what all sports are about. Understanding. I'm gonna set this clip up. So, Maryland Terps played Ohio State.
That's right.
On Friday, barn burner to the end. Great game.
Who won?
Maryland won.
Nice.
Right, by 2 at the end.
How'd your girl do?
Well, she struggled.
Did she?
She struggled. She had 7, but played decent.
Right.
It was always tough coming back home. But I want to give you, I asked Mikey to bring up this clip. This is Brenda Freese, the head coach of Maryland, coaching the Terrapins, but she's telling Cheyenne at this point. You got volume on this, Mike?
No.
No, we can't play audio.
Do it through tag.
All right.
What is she saying?
So what she's saying,
wow.
you see it right
she's
there.
Angry.
She's telling Cheyenne, you got to show up. You got to show up today. This is in the third, fourth quarter here, right?
Did she tell you that, or were you sitting close enough to hear it?
No, I was sitting right behind that, but Cheyenne is not bothered by it. The rest of they're not bothered, but Cheyenne wasn't bothered by that. And then Cheyenne came out and went to work because she was like she wasn't there, right?
So that was a wake-up call.
Well, because she had 50 people at the game, right? Jay, you can understand the number of distractions.
Sure,
that go on
absolutely,
here.
yeah.
Coming back to Ohio is always a distraction, right? If you're not from here, if you're not
but
playing.
But her coach was smart enough to recognize that and had to pull her into the moment.
Yeah, like pull you in here.
I like that fire, by the way.
We're in a dog fight here. We're in a dog fight here. And if you get a chance, go to Twitter. It's on there. She's like, you got to show up. You better show up today. And I was like, whoa.
How early or late in that?
This was in the fourth quarter when Diamond Miller had just gotten foul trouble. So Cheyenne's the second leading scorer here. But at that point, Cheyenne had 0.
Wow. 7 points scored after that in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
And likely the difference in the game.
And I told her, I said, every one of those points was significant.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that fire.
You know what, Brad? That just goes to show you, for all y'all people out there, analytics and numbers, ain't just numbers. At the end of the day, you could do both. You can have some sort of heart and soul and know numbers too. Her coach was smart enough to recognize the analytics. You wasn't doing nothing. That's 0. I know how to coach that. You got to do something, and you got to be aggressive with it. Who's the first analytics coach that's gonna really be like, I'm gonna get in your butt if you ain't doing what I need you to do. Plus, I know analytics. I ain't seen them.
Because it's all about coaching. I don't talk about Stefanski.
No, you know what? We have them in the Guardians dugout.
It's all about coach. Here's Brenda's response. Because Cheyenne's response, she tweeted after the game. She said, I deserve this. Now that she put the clip, she said, I deserve this. She was like, I'm laughing about it now, but I deserve this.
Good.
So Brenda responds and says this.
On Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter. Brenda says, players that want to be great, you can coach hard. I love coaching Cheyenne Sellers. Terrific response from her after being challenged. It's what makes her so special, right? She's not afraid, and she'll do any one of her people. It doesn't matter. If you're not on the game plan today, she gonna let you have it right there, right?
That's the way coaches
That's
should
how
coach.
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's exactly how
If you feel like the coach is working for you, loves you, cares about you, wants you to be good, then there should be nothing that you wouldn't take from that
shout,
coach.
Shout out to you that you're not an AAU dad.
Oh, yeah.
AAU dads would have been mad.
I know.
Well,
he's been there.
Right,
he knows.
right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you not only condone it, but you co-sign it.
Listen, here, I'm sitting here at my alma mater, I'm watching her, I'm like, I'm sitting right behind the bench. I'm looking, are you serious? Is this really going on today? I like we had a dog fight. You ain't nothing on the board yet. I mean,
wow.
You a 15-point game
Well,
person.
that move likely won the game for Maryland because clearly she lit a fire under
bought her some
your
time,
daughter who came.
made a couple moves, couple things, and then
couple buckets.
Then the seniors came to close it out, right?
Good, that's the way it's supposed to be. Let's turn the page to the Major League rules change. Do you have a read first?
We do. Before we talk about the Major League rule changes and how it's already having an impact in spring training, let's remind you guys that BetJack is officially open in the great state of Ohio, and they have sports options to gamble on for everything you could possibly imagine. Download the BetJack app today so you'll be ready to go with all the action, games, lines, parlays, over-unders, you name it, BetJack has it. BetJack, Ohio Sportsbook.
Right on. We want to just go right to Major League Baseball?
Yeah, let's get to
rules.
And don't let Bo forget to bring up his.
He's
well,
got a point.
I brought it up already.
On one hand, but I want you to go further in that because I think you're dead on. On one hand, I love these new Major League rules. On the other hand, I hate these new Major League rules. And here's why. I've got two clips to Exhibit A. Let's give me the Scherzer clip. This is what the new rule was intended to do. Now, it's Max Scherzer, it should be pointed out, is perfectly suited for this rule because he works fast.
Yeah.
Guys, he has a 3-pitch strikeout that lasts all of 27 seconds. You're seeing the entire at-bat. 27 seconds. This is the game Major League Baseball wants. Now, I can appreciate that. There's no downtime. There's no time to look at your phone. There's no time to get lost in a conversation. 27 seconds. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Take a seat.
I'll see you, homie.
Now, that's the great side of this new rule. Now I'm going to show you the absolute worst possible scenario of this rule. Bottom of the ninth, game's tied, bases loaded. There's 2 out and a full count. Now, the hitter has to have his eyes looking at the pitcher when the shot clock gets to 8 seconds. In this case, the hitter, Cal Conley, was not looking at the pitcher, so the umpire jumps in and calls strike 3. Game over.
Yeah.
It was tied 6-6.
And by the way,
that game ended in a tie, and if I paid money, I want my money back.
By the way, that kid is no excuse because he's a minor leaguer. He's never played.
He's used it before.
So he should know to me, I don't see, everybody made a big deal about this.
Get out.
This barely happened in the minors last year.
I know, but it happened already.
But it's spring training. That's what it's supposed to happen.
It's likely going to happen in the regular season.
You know what? I think if it does, it's going to be in April, and as the season goes by, we will almost never see it.
How did it happen to this kid? He's been playing under these rules.
There's no excuse.
None.
But you have 5 weeks of spring training to get used to it. I love this rule. I got to say, I think Rob Manfred in a lot of ways is a big putz.
I do too, but he might hit a home run on this
But
one.
his rule changes, I've liked them all.
Yeah.
I've liked them all.
Even the Ghost Runner?
Even the Ghost Runner, which I thought I would hate.
Ghost Runner.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is so
I
funny.
love it. This is great. Now,
It's worked.
if you look at the
average
average
length of
game
game.
time of the first weekend of spring training compared to last year,
Which is a very small sample size.
small sample size.
Yeah.
40 minutes.
Shaved off every game.
40
On average.
minutes on average.
Which is crazy.
No disrespect to these guys. See, Major League Baseball, you really don't care what they think. They're going to watch the games if it was Pink Elephants.
He's
playing.
right. He's
That's
right.
right.
You care what I think. Because when he saw that, he said, ooh, I would want my money back. I would go to a game like that because I want to clown you. Oh, my goodness. That's better than a walk-off. You got walked off. Strike 3, get out of here. Hallelujah, holla back. You're done. You're out of here. I love it. I'm excited about looking at my eyebrows. I'm like, bro, listen, this guy, you dummy, you were supposed to be in the box.
What was funny was he thought he walked it off
he
with
did.
a ball 4.
With the ball 4.
So he went from thinking I just walked it off to, oh my God, I'm the GOAT.
Until the umpire was, 3.
I know this is going to be.
3.
I know the curmudgeonly old baseball fans, a lot of them are going to complain about this, but as G said, and he's right,
Love it.
even you're 50-50 on it. I'm 100% in.
No, I'm more than 50-50.
Okay,
I just That's the worst case scenario.
Right.
We can't have an important game decided on that.
I think this is the first thing they've done that will attract casual fans.
I agree.
These other rules.
Bull, they just took the length of the game from 3 hours to 2:20.
Yeah.
What?
That's incredible.
You can now take your children on a school night.
Yeah.
Right, you can, because the game starts at 7. You can be home by 10.
About 20 minutes longer than the NBA game. That's all. Yep.
That's workable.
If they cut the games down even 25, 30 minutes, I don't know that it's going to be 40 minutes.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah. The longer commercial
These are
breaks.
spring training games. There's no tactic. Nobody's going to the mound, talking to the pitcher.
Right.
Nobody's making 2 pitching
That's
changes.
why I'm saying it's 40 minutes right now. I'm saying
playoff games are still going to be 3 hours.
How are you sliding the TV commercials in here?
Well, no, they still work. Everything. The TV breaks are all the same.
Length, yeah.
They're the same length. I think they're 90 seconds. They're the same. What you're doing is you are rapidly speeding up pace of play.
Okay.
You saw the Scherzer at bat.
Well,
he gets it, looks in, nods yes, throws.
How's that going to do for his arm?
No, listen, I can honestly tell you from pitching my entire life, you want to work fast. I have always worked fast. I've had games where I'm pitching against another pitcher who's a starter who works fast that have been 2 hour and 20-minute games.
Okay.
The last thing you want to do as a fielder is to stand out there behind a pitcher who's going 25 seconds, 30 seconds between pitches.
Okay.
Now, the clock is 15 seconds with no one on base.
Right.
At first, it felt a little fast, but that's about how I've worked my entire life. 15 seconds, get the ball, catch, look in. I hate it when the guy steps out of the box, throwing one under his chin.
Okay.
I don't like that. Guys that pitch in rhythm like to pitch quickly. And by the way, now there are exceptions, but most of your great pitchers pitch quickly. They get in the rhythm and they go.
No doubt. I think this is an absolute home run. I love the banning of the shift. I would like to see them take it even further. I think in the minor leagues, they're testing, basically they have a pizza slice at second base, so you have to be outside. You know, right now you can be right next to second base.
I see,
They're trying to push you even further.
Where is it painted on the field?
I don't know. I just read about it. I didn't actually see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be crazy. Yeah, got painted on zones.
First of all, pizza slice sales will go up in ballparks everywhere.
I just think the game having more rhythm and a higher percentage, like not only, let's say the average game last year was probably 305 in the regular season, 310.
It's always around 3 hours.
Right? So let's say it's down to 240 next year.
That's big.
Okay? But the percentage of that time that there's action going on is also higher.
Sure.
Because you're cutting out all the downtime.
Yeah. Well, you still have your inning breaks.
Sure, but I don't know. I just think guys got to get used to it. I don't care about the complaints from the players. Yeah, nobody wants a game to end that way. I get it. It'd be bad if it does. But to me, it's worth the risk of a game ending that way to make the games faster.
No. What I'm saying is I want the game ending that way.
G wants it.
I love the game ending like that.
Well,
that
we don't.
Great.
Until it happens to your team.
Listen, you should have been in the box, bro.
See, I don't know that I love the part of the rule that says the hitter has to have his eyes on the pitcher at the. Who cares? If the hitter's looking at the pitcher at 8 seconds to go.
Yeah.
That's not going to speed up the game any.
Was he looking down the line?
He was just doing his routine. Guys have routines when they're in the box.
Oh, they out of here.
I have my routine. It used to be stepping out between every pitch.
That routine is going to be looking
gone.
That routine is looking at the picture now.
I know, because here's the thing. Like, if the hitter's eyes aren't on the pitcher, the bet on him.
Yeah,
pitcher can quick pitch him and throw it by him. Who cares?
Add together. Listen, I'm a big analytics guy. I love analytics. However, the downside to me to analytics is the overshifting and the decrease in stolen bases. Because I hate shifts.
I do too.
And I like stolen bases.
I do
They're an
too.
exciting part of the game.
Yeah, I do too. And they've been washed out completely.
But both of those things, now with the shift mostly gone, and the base is bigger. And
by the way,
you're going to see way more stolen bases.
Did you see the percentage, what the bigger bases did in the minor leagues?
No.
Oh, it was huge.
25%.
It was I thought it would be like single digits.
Right.
It was like 20 or 25% of the attempts were successful with the bigger base, and it's barely bigger.
Well, because
that tells you how bang everything is.
If you add both bases together, what is it, 3 inches less total?
I think it's more than that. I think it's 3 per base, isn't it?
So it's 6 inches less.
Yeah.
How many plays are within 6 inches?
Yeah. Well, apparently 25%.
And then
25%.
Not only did they do that, they implemented where you can only throw over to check a runner twice.
Right.
No, not even that, G.
No.
You can only step off the mound twice, whether it's a pickoff or a step off.
So that's going to increase. So you're going to not only see a higher percentage, not only is the stolen base percentage going to be better, but you're going to see more attempts.
And it's going to lead to more
excitement.
offense, which ultimately is what the game is looking for.
People will be counting those. And then they're like, we're running automatically on that.
Even the high-scoring game, like the longest game on Saturday was the Cubs-Giants. It was 3 hours, 5 minutes. But that was a 10-8 game. Usually a 10-8 game is 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
you just said the longest game was 3 hours and 5 minutes. That was shorter than the average regular season game last year.
Right.
So I think this is a big step in the right direction. Now, you're going to have your diehards and your longtime hardcore fans.
Right.
I hate this, but
you and I are in that group, and
we're dying. And we're dying. And the next generation of fans that refuses to go to a game because it's too slow, too boring, it doesn't hold my focus.
Right.
They will no longer be able to use that as an excuse. This is going to do for baseball what the shot clock did for basketball, in my view. There's going to be no lollygagging around anymore.
Yeah, I love it.
There will be crowds that literally chant 15,
They'll be
14,
counting down.
Sure they will. Yeah.
13, 12. Like, can you imagine them doing that
in the
with
playoffs?
bases loaded?
By the way, what sport can you tell me doesn't have a clock attached to it?
No, baseball's the only one.
It was.
Yeah.
Now it does. I mean, every other sport, the clock is the factor.
You got a fan.
Soccer, football, basketball, track and field, horse racing, boxing. There's a clock in all of it. In baseball, as much as I hate to say
Tennis and golf don't have it, really.
Well, no, golf does too. There is a clock that starts if a golfer is taking too much time, they can be warned.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
That.
So yeah.
I thought what's his name got in trouble. Didn't get in
Kevin
trouble.
Na. I think that's what led to. I think that's what led to the.
A guy who's playing with Brooks.
No, it's called pace. It's called pace of play.
Right, pace of play.
So it's not necessarily per shot, but if your pace of play is behind what it should be, then there. And now what the rule is, I don't know. I don't know if they dock you a stroke. I'm not quite sure on that, but you've got to maintain a pace of play in the game of golf.
And it was great to see baseball this weekend, just seeing the guys out there.
Just seeing the grass.
Love it.
The green, thick, plush grass.
I know.
And hearing the bat hit the ball. It's got me fired up. I leave the 6th or 7th, I think, for spring training. So I'll be coming live from Arizona.
And by the way,
for spring training for a couple of days. So I'm looking forward to that.
And by the way, I think these rules all benefit the Guardians as much, if not more, than any team. First of all, the Guardians. By the way, shout out to a lot of people think nobody outside of Cleveland cares about the Guardians. I was talking to one of my good friends, Ed. Shout out Ed. He's a huge baseball fan.
Okay.
And we were talking about the Guardians. He goes, I think you're underrating their power. He goes, I think they're gonna have a lot more home runs this year.
Hope.
He thinks they got a good shot to win the American League. He's an astute baseball fan.
Who's he a fan of?
He's a Dodgers fan, actually.
Okay.
He's been a Dodgers fan because his dad was a Dodgers fan as a kid in Brooklyn. But anyway, we were talking about it, and I was saying to him that the Guardians, along with the Rays, we talked about this. The Guardians and the Rays are really the only two teams in baseball that are good but don't have a ton of power.
Right.
They rely on putting the ball in play
and
running. Especially the Guardians. I think they led. I don't know if they led the majors in steals. They certainly led the American League in steals last year. Maybe double check that, Mike.
They were up near the league leaders.
But they were near league leaders. They have an aggressive. Their mentality as a team is to be aggressive on the bases. Well, we're talking about stolen base percentages are going to be significantly better, and you're going to steal more. Well, the Guardians, how many more? If their stolen base percentage
goes up 25%.
25%, how many more runs are they going to score? With teams like the Yankees and the Astros, they're not stealing that much.
Here's
It
my
might not
fear,
be as
though.
big a deal.
I buy into what you're saying, but
Jay,
here's my
quick,
fear.
I have the numbers on stolen bases.
Okay.
Just so we know, the Guardians third in the majors, 119
AL,
last
right?
year, second in the AL. The
second.
Rangers led major
So,
league.
but Bull, here's my fear.
Yeah.
It could also bring everybody below the Guardians up because everybody's going to run more now.
Well, I think a lot of teams will, but not every team.
You're crazy if you don't.
But a lot of teams don't have that type of personnel.
No, the Yankees do not.
You know,
the
who's
Yankees
stealing? Aaron Judge is not going to steal 1 million bases.
He's a low-key better. That's a bad example.
That is a bad example.
Yeah.
All right, Giancarlo Stanton
there you go. He is not going to steal a lot of bases.
You know, DJ LeMahieu is not stealing bases.
Right. As a counter, and just question, I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah.
With the shift also being banned, a lot of these power lineups have guys who are dead pull hitters who hit for a extremely low average because they hit into the shift time after time after time. For a team like the Yankees, for example,
they're going to get a lot more singles.
Those teams, where do you put the scale of where the Guardians benefit in everything to where those teams do, and maybe that's that one.
I think that will help those teams. But those teams are based on hitting home runs.
They are.
So yeah, they'll have more singles, and it will equate. Everybody's going to score more. Scoring is going to be up across the board. But I think the Guardians, the shift rule helps their best player too, because he's a power hitter, right?
Sure. Yep.
So yeah, okay. I don't know that the shift rule helps Stephen Kwan that much, because he
puts the ball in play more than anyone.
They probably don't over shift him anyway.
Sure.
Or a Miles Straw maybe, or even Ahmed Rosario, who doesn't hit a ton of home runs.
Right.
But for the rest of the guys, I mean, I think it's going to help all of them. Mike Zunino's a pull hitter, Josh Naylor.
Yeah.
So
it makes it really interesting, though, doesn't it?
It's going to be
how these rules play out.
Yes, and I also think, Jay, there will be some teams that are so analytic based, that are used to the analytics saying stolen bases are no good, that may take time to adjust.
Well, they're crazy if it does.
Combination.
We have a baseline set of data.
Agreed.
From the minor leagues.
But it may take time for them to adjust in terms of personnel.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely it
right?
will.
So,
and they still will have to pick value. Do we want to continue to be all in on the power like the Yankees are?
Right.
Or do we want to be a team that has 4 power bats but also has 4 guys that can blaze and steal bases whenever we need?
Right. And a guy who's like a stolen base owner, like remember Billy Hamilton? I think he's still bouncing around the minors.
That's what he did.
Like a guy like that could have a little more value now on a roster.
Yeah.
Especially now that the roster's 26. Like having a guy that could, Billy Hamilton's almost a guarantee stolen base.
Sure. Well, Dave Roberts won the Red Sox a World Series.
Right.
With a stolen base.
Stolen base. Yeah.
I don't understand. I never got. The one thing I really want them to do is expand the rosters a bit, because here's the thing. There's a lot of guys that we hear about in the minors, right? We hear about all these guys. We never really get to see them at once. The rosters was 30, right?
Well, they used to have a 40-man roster in September. That's changed.
Yeah.
Now it's 28. The regular season roster is 26. Now it's 28. What I'd like to see, they do it for money. What I'd like to see, and they're not going to change it at this point, is have a 30-man roster, period, but only 26 active players every day.
Well, the problem with that is, though, most of those fringe guys are guys that you want playing every day. You want them getting the reps.
That's true. That's
so
fair.
I want them in the minor leagues playing. That way, when you call them up, they're sharp, they're ready to go.
That's a good point.
And Brad was going like this. That is the reason that the rosters are set at 26, because the way the money is distributed is there's a percentage that likely in the future, there's going to be a percentage of the total gate, if they ever get around to this, that goes to the players like it does in the NBA and the NFL. If we ever get to that point, the veterans aren't going to want 30 guys on the roster because it's going to cut into their total take. Do you want to go to the top 5 first basemen?
We do, and today, Top 5 First Basemen is brought to us by our good friends at PCC Airfoils. Are you looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? Well, PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio.
Number 1.
All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers.
By the way, it's always funny to me when somebody, and I've done this many times, Mike just did it now as the latest example, when you screw up something you meant to say and you say, excuse me. Like, why do we got to excuse you? You just made a mistake, you keep going. But we've all done that for years. It's an odd thing.
It's
Where's the habit start?
Well, it's just conversationally polite, I think.
But I feel like I say excuse me when I did something wrong, or I don't know.
Well, you misspoke. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
I think it's an old holdover.
It's an old holdover. I think we need to.
You want to wipe that out?
Yeah, for the English. Yeah, I don't.
That is definitely Bulls Northeast mentality seeping into the Midwest. We don't do that here.
Or, a lot of the words that you say are curse words came from old English terms that people just was like, I don't like that. Let's strike it from the record. Striking from the record is almost like canceling. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ain't that crazy?
By the way, speaking
The
of
F
curse
word will
words,
never be canceled.
I have to be very careful how I say this. But
right.
when we did the stand-up thing, remember when I did all the curse words?
Yeah.
There was one of the 7 words I did not say. Do you remember which one I did
You
not
said,
say?
I remember you said I just hit all 7 of them.
No, I left one out.
Yeah, you left the C word out.
The C word.
Smart.
Which was that's the only one
And it was
I
strategic.
say.
You thought about that, right?
But they use that word in England in a totally different way, and it's like beautiful. They don't use it for the same meaning.
Bollocks.
They don't?
They do it as almost like the F word. It's used kind of that way.
No,
instead.
Wow, I didn't know
It's
that.
not like a woman-specific.
You cannot. That is so.
That's the only one I'm not saying.
Like even like you're like I look at my mother's face when like you just be like.
That's the Control-Alt-Delete word.
Yeah.
When you drop that, you need a standing 8 count, smelling
That's it.
salt. Like it's about to get real.
Even I wasn't willing to go there.
Yeah,
your
no,
wife-
wise choice.
And your wife will look at you like.
You just use that word, even if it wasn't towards her.
Right. She's like,
We don't use
we
it.
are leaving now.
Now, you know what's funny? You guys have probably heard this. You know, the P word
Yeah.
is used as a derogatory, like soft.
Yeah.
But when you think about it,
Oh yeah.
like there is no being on this planet more durable than a woman.
Yeah.
God gave them the ability to pass a bowling ball, for crying out loud.
Crazy.
Like that word should never be used to describe something that's weak and soft.
And now with insurance, they'd be out of the hospital in 12 hours.
And Mike,
Here's your baby. It's like a drive-through.
sorry, Mike, I took us down this road. I hear Mike sighing, so let's get to the top 5.
Top 5. We did number 5 last week.
We did 5. That was actually Anthony who asked how we got here. I was a little more in tune. It's okay. We did 5
number
last
5
week.
was Matt Olson. We all agreed.
And we all
on that.
agreed
Matt
on that.
Olson. We went over Matt Olson
Yeah.
versus Jose Abreu was the 5-6 battle, but Matt Olson got the slight
See,
edge
now
because
I
he
already
was-
know your top 5 because we talked about it in the gym on Friday.
We did.
So I'm really similar to yours, but I think I've got some differences.
Matt
in both.
Olson is a constructional engineer. He has a firm down in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay,
It's
number
also
4.
a damn good third base.
Used to work with Jimmy, then he got ripped off by him.
So there you go. There you go.
All right, number 4. And Gio, I want you to tell us where you think all these guys work outside of baseball as we go through this. So we should do that for each. But number 4, I have Pete Alonso of the New York Mets. 40 home runs, 131 RBIs last year. He's the best power hitter at first baseman, but he's a giant negative defensively. Of all the metrics, he had -2 defensive run save, -7 defensive outs, which don't sound like a lot, but in comparison, that ranked 26 and 28 respectively in the league.
Yeah,
So
he
because
is
he's
a defensive
minus,
liability for
I
sure.
put him to 4.
Junior.
I had him 3. I have him 3.
Well, how does he get in the top 5 if he's a defensive liability?
Because he's
the
so
best
good with the
offensive
stick.
player
hitter.
He's
position.
so good at the plate.
He's a junior
And it's a hitting
account rep
position.
at Seattle Communications. Junior account rep.
He's too big to be a junior account rep.
Who do
He's
you have?
huge.
Who do you have at 3?
At number 3, I wanted to put him higher. I just couldn't yet. But Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, this is where
Vlad
you were
Guerrero
your only
Jr.
mistake.
I
a
flip
baseball
Vlad. Oh, you have Vlad higher.
I had Freddie Freeman 3, Vlad 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had Vlad 4 and Alonso 3.
Because he had a down year, for him, a down year
I just
last
don't think
year.
he's done it long enough compared to these other guys.
Yeah, I just think
Here
his
was the
upside
difference.
moving forward is
I mean, if you
humongous.
ask me who I'd rather have for the next decade, I'd take Guerrero over all of them.
I would too.
Except for me. No, I'd probably still take Alonso, but between those two.
Yeah.
But those other, the 1 and 2 for me have just done it for so long, and they're still doing it at a high
You
level.
guys should feel really old because Vlad Guerrero was like, you guys have been watching baseball
Long
for like
enough to
20
see his
years,
dad play. and
Yeah.
his son.
20 years, and then Vlad Guerrero came on the
Vlad
scene.
could swing and hit a ball over the fence that was at his eyes, and he could also swing and hit a ball over the fence that was at his ankles. He was probably the
did
best bad ball hitter in the history of baseball.
And he played all behind the Canadian Shield,
Yeah.
which is
Montreal
the Montreal
Expos.
Expos. Nobody watching them games.
What a shame.
Real quick on
so-
Vlad, real quick. The reason I put him a slight nod above Alonso, despite him having a bit of a down year, which, by the way, a down year for Vlad Guerrero Jr. was 32 home runs, 97 RBIs.
Right.
He's 23 years old, and he won a Gold Glove last
How
year.
old is he?
So
23.
He's 24 this
When he
season.
started playing, was 16. He been in the league like 5,
I
6
think he was like
years.
19,
I think
20
19.
when he
I think he was
first came
20
up.
when he broke into
God.
the league.
Okay, I thought he was 19. One way or another, he's
The Blue Jays have
my number 2.
The Blue Jays have Craig Biggio's son, Vladimir Guerrero's son,
It's the junior team.
And Bichette.
and Bichette's son.
Yeah,
Dante
I used to
Bichette's son,
love
yeah.
Dante Bichette.
Yeah.
I used to love him for the
Yeah.
Colorado Rockies.
He was a lot of home
MLB
runs.
94. Shout out to that, too.
Go ahead, Mike. So
All right, so I had Freeman at 2. Bull, I'm not sure if you had him at 1 or 2. I think you can make an argument either way with 1 and 2. Here,
I had Freeman number 1 overall.
Oh, you did?
I did. I love everything about his game.
It's funny. I was trying to get into your mind. I thought you were going to have Guerrero at 1.
No, I had Guerrero 4. I mean, listen, I think those top 4 guys you can put in any order.
I had Goldschmidt.
Obviously, Alonzo's defense hurts him, so probably a lot of people put him 4. I just love his.
Didn't Goldschmidt win the MVP?
Goldschmidt won the MVP, which is why I had him at first.
Yeah, that's why it was hard for me not to put him at first.
Freddie, his name is Freddie Freeman?
Yeah.
He actually works with Stipe at the fire department. I can see that.
How about Paul Goldschmidt? What's he doing?
Oh, listen, Goldschmidt owns a bank.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And
Actually,
Swiss
that makes a lot of
sense. That makes
It's a good list, Mike. You did a good job. We all had the same 5 guys.
We did. Yeah,
just did
bounced around a little differently.
Nothing's outrageous.
Where
does Bill rank?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I got him 50. I've got him middle of the pack.
Off the top of my head, I mean, there's at least a few other guys. He's probably somewhere around 50.
Yeah, I put him in the 13 to 17 range.
Yeah, well, that's.
But last year the Guardians had a bottom first baseman.
Sure.
Now they got a middle of the pack one.
And catcher.
We talking about this top 5, but who's the best first baseman in Guardians/injury Indians history? This is kind of difficult.
Jim told me.
Yeah, it's easy. I was trying to think of the 48 team, who their first baseman was.
Didn't Tommy play third base?
He did.
First came up.
Yeah. For a little bit of his
career.
It's
so weird to think about.
Andre Thornton was a great
Jim
first
baseman.
baseman.
Played third base when he came up?
When he first came up.
When he first came up, he was a third baseman.
But he didn't for very long.
But his build was a lot different.
It's weird for people that don't know that. Yeah. It's hard to wrap your head around.
I'm trying to think of the Jim told me that I remember the DH was barely
DH at the end of it.
Yeah, he was a pretty skinny guy when he came. I mean, wiry, strong.
All these guys were skinny.
Yeah, I mean, think about your body when you were 19. 20.
Right.
You were skinny and wiry. Hell, Brad, you're still skinny and wiry, but. I mean, at some
Russell
point,
Fielder was never skinny.
No, he wasn't.
Ryan Howard was never skinny.
The guy that could have been Russell Branion.
Branion, man, he had a great swing.
Smooth
God, his swing was beautiful.
Didn't Brian Giles play?
Brian Giles was another one. One of those journeyman outfielder.
I heard, I don't know if it was Jeff Phelps or Andy Baskin the other day telling a story about going to see Brian Giles in Pittsburgh. I think it was Phelps, and the Pirates were terrible. And he walks in the locker room, talks to Brian Giles, and Giles just flat out said, "Man, we suck. We're terrible." And a lot of players won't ever say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that an off-the-record comment? He just said it.
I don't think so.
Oh, man.
Who was the 6'8" kid?
That's Russell. Well, Russell. Oh, no.
Sexton.
Richie Sexton.
Richie Sexton. Yes, sir.
Man, we've had so many guys that have come up. You go back to Corey Snyder. Yeah. Guys that everybody thought, he's the next Joe DiMaggio.
I don't think there's anybody better than Tommy that I can think of.
No, I don't think so. I think
not first base.
You couldn't even do a top 5.
I did like Andre Thornton.
Andre Thornton was a really good
player,
first
but he was
in the
not
70s.
Jim Tomey.
No, but he was he was a 25, 30 home run a year guy.
I just saw Andre Thornton at the grocery store.
Andre Thornton? Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's supposed to be
around here? I've never met him, but he's supposed to be an incredibly nice guy.
Yeah, still lives here.
Very cordial.
About 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
I remember he lost his wife and at least maybe a daughter in a car accident. It was so tragic.
Wow.
When he was playing, I think.
He didn't play for Cleveland, but doesn't Mo Vaughn live here?
Mo Vaughn.
Doesn't he own like a trucking company here?
Yeah, he lives here.
I think he does. We figured out. He's from Connecticut originally.
Yeah.
Bad job on us.
I think he married a woman from Cleveland and has a trucking company here in Cleveland.
The guy who was on our show, we didn't even mention Travis Hafner, man.
Oh, yeah, Travis Hafner was
Travis Hafner was a DH more, but
he did play first.
But again, it wasn't Jim Tomey. Good player.
And shout out to Paul Sereno.
Paul Sereno,
that's another good one.
Paul
Very good.
Had a good head
Paul
of hair.
Sereno. Yeah, good salad. Good lettuce.
Look at you.
Are we going to do final takes?
We are going to do final takes today. We got some time.
I'll be in the time machine. I'll be in the time machine.
Bull, you want to go?
Yeah, let's start with this, guys. A really great person is on their deathbed right now, and that's sad, and it sucks. And it shouldn't matter what side of the political aisle you are to realize that Jimmy Carter is one of the most incredible human beings that has ever lived in America. Say what you want about his presidency. Everybody thinks they're a genius on it now. I don't know. I was 5 years old when he became president. I don't know what he did right, what he did wrong. Who knows? The truth is, as a man, as a human being in America, in the 43 years since he left the presidency, while most former presidents have collected paychecks, have just made themselves rich, Jimmy Carter
This is crazy. I don't know what it is, boy.
Brad got his first iPhone yesterday.
Jeez.
There you go, boy.
Jimmy Carter has done amazing things for the people of America. He's like 98 years old. He's in hospice. He's, obviously going to die soon. He worked for Habitat for Humanity forever. He lived his life where religion mattered. Not the nonsense that people make up, but he was a religious man, and it meant something to him to be a man of God. I am not a religious man, but I can respect a religious man who's really true to that. He did good. He helped the poor. He cared about people. And that's the most important thing. There's so much selfishness out there, but this man who could have used his presidency to make millions and millions of dollars, what did he do? He used it to do charity, to do good work, to help with civil rights, to help in the community. Jimmy Carter is a great man, and I'm sad that he's about to die, but he lived an incredible life. All the best to his family.
All right, good call, Bull. Let me go my way with I'm going to change up. I got to get back to the subject I was talking about briefly today. This All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game. Oh, my God. It has been hijacked. It used to be a time when being named an All-Star was a significant thing. And I was telling people this weekend, because you got named to the All-Star team didn't mean that even if you got named that you were guaranteed to play. You might go there and play 30 seconds, depending on if you were a young person or not. But it was a real game. It was for the fans' entertainment, right? People wanted to see the best play against the best. I don't know what it's turned into now. It's pretty much, to me, it's unwatchable. I can't watch it, right? Because it's entertainment. It's a freak show. That's what it is, right? We got guys jacking up half quarters, anything crazy. It's not what it's supposed to be. And anybody who's a pure fan of basketball, you want to see the top people match up against the top people. And the same concerns were today as they were then, making sure that nobody got hurt, but you could still play the game and give the game the reverence that it's due. The setup that it is now is it's been hijacked by entertainment now, and I get it. We added the slam dunk contest and the three-point shooting contest to spice up All-Star Weekend, right? Now that's gone far. Now we've turned into a concert, we've turned into itty-bitty, the skill competition that really is in the no-skill competition, and you're starting to see more and more people fade away from the game. I saw the viewer ratings on the All-Star game.
Lowest ever.
Lowest ever, just a shade above what the Pro Bowl used to be.
And down significantly.
I said, it all ties together. Load management, All-Star game. Remember the commercial, and I'll take people back. The commercial, NBA had this fantastic commercial they used to run. Used to be the NBA is fantastic. Fantastic. We've gotten away from that. And we need to get back to it before you lose everybody here.
Hear, hear.
Well, I will go along with that, man. I will say this, man. At one point in time, during a lot of last political, season and all the different things going on, I think I probably was consuming so much, just news in general and different things like that. And I used to get so worked up, right? I used to get so worked up. It was during the time of, George Floyd. There was so many different things going on politically in our country that was just disturbing to me. But then, the crazy part about it is, one day, I try to meditate and I try to pray, and it came to me. And, God told me, he said, why you get so worked up about that stuff? And it was weird because he was talking to me clearly. I say, why you get so worked up about that? And I was like, well, what, you don't see all this crazy stuff going on? Like what? And he was like, listen, that's been going on since you was here, and it's going to continue to go on after you here. So I said, well, what's the key to this? What am I supposed to be getting out of this? And he said, listen, while you here, while you on this earth, I'll give you a list of things to do. You go through and you try to check as many of those things you can off on your list and do the best you can. And he said, those guys ain't really going to do nothing either way, or any way, shape, or form. But what I'm going to tell you to do is you make a difference. It don't got to be on the world level. It don't got to be on a huge level. It could be on an everyday small level. You can go meet somebody, you could do, but every time you do something and I tell you to do it, just go do it and make sure you do it to the best of your ability and let everything else fall to the side. So that gave me a lot of inner peace because I got to understand I only got to account for what I do in this lifetime. I can only account for what I do and good that I bring to the table. Other than that, I could try to give you examples, but I just got to do me.
That's very good advice. I had to tell my mom, turn off the TV. Stop watching the news. Because at the end of the day, it impacts your day-to-day life. Almost not at all.
Right.
Everybody's in a tizzy. And the reality of it is it doesn't really impact your day-to-day at all. I'll be quick. Jimmy Haslam is now a minority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. He spent $875 million of his hard-earned dollars to do that. That's fine. It's America. You can buy into whatever you want. He won't have a voice in what the Bucks do. As a longtime suffering fan of the organization that he is the majority owner of, I will say I wish he would have put that money into winning a championship here. We have now become not the only child, but we're now one of three. He owns the Crew, and he owns a piece of the Milwaukee Bucks. Good for his portfolio. At the end of the day, I think bad for Browns fans. We need someone's full attention. That's it. We're out of time. We're going to do overtime. We're going to take viewer questions that we didn't get to on Friday. We'll see you tomorrow.